The Kent School District Board meetings are held in public on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month at 7 p.m. at the Administration Center in accordance to the Washington State Open Public Meetings Act. Regular meetings include presentations and reports dealing with district operations, as well as time set aside for public comment. Now, here are your Kent School District Board of Directors. Welcome to tonight's board meeting.
Well, welcome to our board meeting. We will start out tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Brad Brown to please lead us in that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So again, welcome to our meeting. I want to let you know that Agda is joining us via Skype. She's actually for work across the country in Washington, D.C., so we appreciate her joining us, especially at this late hour. So if you hear her piping in, I don't want you to be confused. She is here with us tonight. And I'd also like to excuse Dr. Vargas. He had been traveling back to Washington, D.C., and was there for a meeting of the superintendents that had won Superintendent of the Year awards at the White House, and he had some weather flight delays. He was supposed to be with us tonight and has gotten stuck somewhere. There's a lot of bad weather on the East Coast. I can verify that. I was just there Monday and Tuesday. So we do want to excuse him tonight. So with that, again, welcome. This is a meeting of the board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act, and we will allow opportunity for public comment later in the agenda. If you'd like to address the board, please make sure you fill out one of these cards and bring it up to the dais. If you are talking directly to an agenda item, please make sure you identify that on the card and you bring that up prior to that agenda item being addressed, and we will have that public comment at that time. So with that, Dr. Sedry, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, ma'am, there are no changes.
Great, thank you. So we're going to start out tonight with a proclamation on Physical Therapies Month, and I've asked Karen to read that for us.
Whereas the Kent School District is committed to supporting students with special needs and providing every student with equal access to education regardless of physical needs. Whereas the American Physical Therapy Association recognizes how physical therapists and their assistants improve people's lives by restoring and improving their abilities of movement. And whereas the Kent School District encourages staff, students, and community members to help increase awareness of the benefits of physical therapy during the month of October, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaims the month of October as National Physical Therapy Month in the Kent School District and calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to join in the national effort to raise awareness of physical therapy and how therapists and their assistants improve students' access to education. Signed this 8th day of October.
Thank you. So do we have anybody tonight from our physical therapy, representing physical therapists? Right. Well,
Matt?
oh, do we? Oh, yeah, great, okay. Thank you. And Matt is our interim director for special ed, so thank you, Matt. We have a number of presentations tonight, so Dr. Sturdy, would you like to introduce our first presentation?
Yes, ma'am. As you know, as board, we've been actively recruiting people this year, and one of the things that Dr. Beeman and his staff have done is they've come back to you and want to give you a report on where we are, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Beeman.
Thank you.
Dr. Sitter did a very fine job in a very succinct manner of introducing the report this evening. I certainly want to take this opportunity to commend both Mariah Martin and Matt Gerard, as well as their entire team, for the outstanding work that they've done on behalf of the organization, as well as all the many principals, assistant principals, teacher staff, and other administrators, excuse me, and employees throughout the district who have helped in this very important effort. So I'd like to turn it over to Mariah and Matt at this time.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Stedry, Ms. Everett. It is our pleasure this evening to present to you the 2014-2015 Recruitment and Hiring Report. This PowerPoint is accompanied by the 2014-2015 Recruitment and Hiring Report in its written form. And we also have provided for you the exit survey report, so both of those have been provided for you and expound upon the points that we'll be sharing with you tonight. Both were provided to you and before this meeting commenced. The report includes a couple of things, the summary of purpose, information about timelines, as well as the intended outcomes of a successful hiring season. In short, the Division of Human Resources seeks to ensure that principals and hiring managers have access to a large pool of highly qualified, diverse candidates, and that they have the tools to assess candidates' readiness. As a result, a highly qualified candidate is employed for every vacancy. In addition, we want to make sure that our workforce is growing as diverse and reflects the diversity of our student population. So with that, we'll get started. So our overview for tonight, we're going to cover these major points: the reasons to recruit, our recruitment efforts, the training, our hiring results, and then we'll take questions and comments at the end. It's been a busy year for the Division of Human Resources, and let me tell you quickly, we are going to break down the data, but this is in short. This year, for 2014-2015, the district hired 29 administrative positions, 358 certificated positions, and 129 classified positions. Those numbers include district transfers as well, but we will talk about new allocations in addition to that. So we're going to begin with the reasons why the district needed to recruit this year. And our first reason is, in order to address the overcrowding at Neely O'Brien Elementary School and Kent Elementary School, the Board of Directors worked with the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction to open Kent Valley Early Learning Center, which, along with the dual language program, serves the needs of kindergarten students and from those two schools. Although the Neely O'Brien and Kent Elementary School kindergarten teachers transferred to KVELC, the move necessitated the hiring of 6.0 FTE and additional certificated and classified employees. In addition, we needed to hire a coordinator for that site. Well, then we have the reduced class sizes in K-1. For the 2014-2015 school year, class sizes were reduced for two different purposes. The first is the K-1 to kindergarten, first grade, 1 to 20 ratio. Let's get all those ones in there. The 1 to 20 ratio was in effect for 19 elementary schools, and we've listed those there, and the Kent Valley Early Learning Center. They met the state criteria for receiving enhanced funding. And so as part of that enhanced funding, we needed to make sure that we had the 1 to 20 ratio there. That caused us to add 18.0 FTE at those schools, combined. The second way was through the reduced class sizes. Upon negotiation with the KEA through the collective bargaining agreement, the district agreed to reduce class sizes in grades K through 12 for 2 years. The first year of reduced class sizes was implemented in the 2013-2014 school year. I know we discussed that last year. And this year, class sizes were reduced to the following. We now have a 1 to 23 ratio in grades K through 3, a 1 to 27 ratio in grades 4 through 6, 7 through 8 has a 1 to 143, and then 1 to 153 in grades 9 through 12. It's important to note that the language was negotiated in the summer after the allocations had already been distributed last year. So for this year, we needed to catch up to last year's class size change and this year's. So all of those numbers together, including the K-1 ratio, we added 31 new FTE just in the elementary schools due to those two reasons. Okay. An additional reason to recruit was that we needed to add some building administrative staff. We added 2 APs, or assistant principals, one at Meridian Elementary School and one at Scenic Hill Elementary School. In addition, we added the coordinator at Kent Valley Early Learning Center, as I mentioned previously. Central office administrative staff, 5 FTE were added. Those include a school improvement officer focused on elementary, director of early learning, assistant director of inclusive education, assistant director for human resources, and a coordinator of nursing. Okay, so another reason to recruit is workforce attrition, and I'm proud to say we have a very good retention rate in the Kent School District with 90%. In fact, we use our 90% retention rate as we recruit. Our candidates are impressed that so many want to stay with us. And 10%, or 352 employees, chose to separate from the district, and we'll break down those numbers for you just a little bit. The largest group was from KEA with 189 terminations, or 11% of KEA. Of the 189 KEA members who separated, 26 members, or 14%, retired, and 76, or 40%, separated to pursue a job opportunity in another district and/or state. The Division of Human Resources uses the district's, as I mentioned, excellent retention rate. We want to continue to see that rise. We'd love to be in the mid-90s. And so to talk about our exit survey just a little bit, let's delve down into that 10% that left or separated from the district. We did do an exit survey and continue to do one, but I'm going to present to you the data from March until September 2014. 77 separating employees responded to the exit survey. The average years with KSD of those respondents was 2.33 years. And we provided the racial ethnic breakdown of the respondents for you as well. And the results of the survey were as follows. These were the percent of respondents that stated they were satisfied or very satisfied with the following criteria. 49% were satisfied or very satisfied with their salary, 73% with their benefits, 55% with the information tools available to successfully perform their job, 43% with the recognition received for their high-quality work, 71% with the supervisor's expectations of them, 57% with the way administrators treated them, 77% with the way their coworkers functioned together, 39% with the focus and goals of the district, 29% with the advancement opportunities in the district. And then there were two additional questions. 41% agreed or strongly agreed that they would recommend KSD as a quality place to work, and 71% would consider working for Kent School District again. They also provided or had an opportunity to provide some anecdotal data about their particular experiences. They had the opportunity to keep their responses anonymous, or they could provide their names. And what we've recognized as we look at these exit survey results is that this data can guide our work as a district in determining how we can ensure KSD continues to recognize, empower, and support its employees. And we see we have work to do. We also see that we have things to celebrate. In summary, after all those reasons to recruit, over 280 new certificated candidates needed to be hired for the 2014-2015 school year. That's not due to attrition. That is new positions that need, well, actually it is attrition, but it's not due to transfers, I should say. Each of these 280 people that were hired needed to be recruited, screened, fingerprinted, taken through the hiring process, and because they were certificated, we were looking at clock hours and everything else that helps set their salary. Matt Gerard, our Assistant Director of Recruitment and Diversity, is going to walk us through the recruitment efforts that we took to bring those 280 people on board.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me be here. President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Stedry, and Ms. Everett. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the recruitment efforts that we've had. It really started with some of the pre-recruitment, kind of diving into the data from the previous year of all of our recruitment efforts previous, looking at that data and coming up with a recruitment plan for the following year. We had a variety of recruitment teams that were created and that traveled across the country. We trained all of those recruitment teams. This is the training here that outlined a variety of things that they would work on outside while we're recruiting. And it's a little different for a principal to actually recruit for this school district rather than just their one building. So we wanted to make sure we were all consistent across the country as we recruited. Another thing that we also developed our scoring tool, and that was aligned and developed around the CEL 5D language. So the candidates were scored using language that they would be evaluated on. So it aligned very nicely with that. And again, this was a team effort from a variety of people. We had 38 different people, administrators, district level, representative from human resources, principals, all over, from various levels as well. We always like to make sure that we had someone from an elementary level, secondary, middle school, and so that really helped broaden the opportunity to reach out to some of the candidates so they had firsthand opportunities to speak with a principal of a school that they might work with and create a great opportunity. Also, a special thanks to Brad Brown. Really has helped me connect with a lot of different school districts from districts that he's come from when we kind of got hired at the same time. So I just really appreciate that as well. This map reflects all the different trips that we took across the country. generally, most of them are in the Washington State area. A lot of the big universities and education programs, a variety of career fairs just centered around education, and those departments putting on career fairs. A couple of those career fairs that we probably won't go back to, Western Washington University, not that we're going to exclude them from recruitment. I'll still use them as a resource and connect with their schools of education, but we probably won't go back to their career events because they weren't centered around education as much and wasn't a good use of our time. Then we want to expand that as well. As we look back at some of the events that were really beneficial to us and opportunities for advancement of looking at the demographics of those education programs, and the opportunities of our needs. Special ed, University of Kansas has a great special ed program, so we'd like to visit there and start building some relationships. As well, we've hired quite a few people from Texas. We didn't actually spend any time in Texas, so we thought maybe this is a good opportunity. And the University of Texas has 1,100 students in their education program, and a very diverse population at that. This is just a small breakdown. University of Washington does a great job of having a pretty quality group of candidates and students, and this is a snapshot of the demographics of their departments of education, not their whole universities. University of Washington is a little different than most. Most of them look more like Eastern Washington University, and that's reflected in our recruitment trips when you're out there talking with candidates. So a majority of the universities in Washington look more like Eastern Washington with that 74 to 80% majority white schools. Which brings me to University of Texas, where we have a much higher population of diverse candidates and more opportunity for us to really recruit and retain some folks that represent our student population. Letters of intent. I want to thank you for approving the letters of intent. It was a great recruitment effort, and that was your approval to hand those out, kind of a not necessarily a contract, but an opportunity for us to really kind of set our candidates at ease with an opportunity for a job in the Kent School District. We gave out 34 of them. We've hired 20. Some of them either continue on to a master's degree program or weren't finished with school yet and may still come back. So there's lots of great opportunity, and we'd really like to see that program grow some more. And then to sum all of it up, which I believe was really kind of an Olympic effort when we talk about the numbers of people we had to hire and go through a process. A lot of those numbers doubled and tripled. But we attended 21 career fairs. We had 38 administrators participate. We collected 892 resumes. We did 246 interviews on site at those career events. And we roughly did about 123 hours of interviewing, which I really feel can reflect our opportunity of how we help our district out, because that's interviewing those principals didn't have to do 15 days worth for them to give them quality candidates. Student teaching also is another opportunity where we have a great opportunity to see firsthand the skills and abilities of teachers before any interview, really it paints a much better picture of what they're going to be like in a classroom. Last year we had roughly 50 student teachers. 8 of those are hired. Again, many of those go on to a master's degree or go back for another semester or still have to finish. But I'd really like to see that program grow to more than 100, maybe 150. Currently, we have 23 right now for this year placed at the moment. That will expand throughout the year as they usually do 6 weeks or a semester. And then social media recruitment. I mean, it's pivotal in recruitment across the world. It's how I was hired, through LinkedIn. I've also used LinkedIn to target a variety of people across the country. You can see work experience. I can get direct contact information to reach out to them and build relationships and plant the seed for potential new administrators, principals, and teachers. Also social media with the use of Facebook and every building creating a Facebook page. It's a great opportunity for us to share with our community opportunities in our school districts, whether it's providing that link, helpful hints on how to apply, how to get through the process, that kind of thing. Also, same thing with Twitter, being able to tweet out those job openings as they come available. Also, we had a couple success stories with Facebook. I had one of our candidates actually post the link saying that she just was hired at the Kent School District, and it it garnered about 5 applications of new candidates just from one little posting on Facebook. So that was a great opportunity for us. And then I will pass that off to Mariah to share the results.
Okay. And just a couple of things I'd like to share that Matt is too humble to share with you, but I think it's important that you know every trip we went to, Matt was out recruiting recruiters. And so we would be at the tables talking to candidates, and he would go in search of candidates. That's one of the ways Damon Hunter came on board that way. Shannon Nash came on board that way. We had a busy time in Michigan. We were talking to many, many people. And it was interesting. Highline was the only other Washington district in Michigan. And they may not send anybody next year. I don't know. We'll see. But we really, really are excited to see that level of recruitment. In addition, Matt brought together candidates who are interested in being administrators, and particularly candidates of color. And many of those candidates came on board. Sarita, who is at Scenic Hill, and I can name quite a few others. David Jones, who's also at Mill Creek. And so the recruitment efforts have been phenomenal. One last little story I will tell you, because I think it's important for you to hear, is that at one of the events, we had a candidate walking by, and they didn't stop in Washington. I think she was in Michigan. She walked right by us, and Matt stopped and said, "Hey, where do you want to go? What do you want to do?" And she said, "I want to go to Florida. I'm looking for the Florida schools." And he said, "Washington. Washington's where you want to go. Come on, you want to come to Washington." She is now teaching at Meridian Elementary School. So I don't know what he told her, but he got her here. So thank you. So let's talk a little bit about our hiring results, and we're very, very excited about our results. As we mentioned to you, we had 280 to bring on board, and so we did see tremendous growth. We hired 24 administrators for current positions and for current school-based positions, 5 administrators for new allocations. As of August 22nd, 2014, the district hired 41% more administrators of color than the previous year. In addition, promotions for administrators of color increased 2% from the previous year. As a result of aggressive recruiting of recruiters, as I just mentioned to you, the district was able to initiate and cultivate contact with many qualified candidates, administrative candidates, as well as teacher candidates. For classified, our hiring results, that of all of the classified positions within the district, 96% of them are filled. And for certificated, out of all of the positions, certificated positions within the district, 97% of those are filled. We had OSPI ask us on the phone the other day, "How many vacancies do you have?" We said, "We're in the 20s right now." She said, "Wow, your neighboring school district," which is much, much smaller than us, by the way, "has more vacancies than you do." We have had a tremendously successful time. Yes, we do know that we do have 3% of vacancies, and we won't be satisfied till it reaches 100%, but we are making sure that if any position has direct contact with students, that it has a substitute in that classroom. And something I'm very excited to share with you, the split classrooms. As a result of the allocation process for the 2014-2015 school year, we've drastically reduced the number of split classes from the last 2 years. In 2012 and 2013, we had 67, or 11.8% of our total classes. Last year, we brought it down to 59, or 9.8%. We are down to 35 split classes district-wide. That's only 5.5% of total classes. And we took very seriously the language that we bargained with at KEA, that we would make every effort to minimize the number of general education split classes. And so we're very pleased with those results and hope to see it even lower next year. Overload classrooms, we do have a lot. We'll talk about that. Last year, we had 56 overload classrooms. This is in elementary, and there's 9.3% of total elementary classrooms last year. This year, it's 81, or 12.7% of total elementary classrooms. So what was the effect of the lower classroom ratio in elementary schools for the 2014-2015 school year? As you know, we went down to 1 to 23 in K3 and 1 to 24 in 4 through 7. Not 1 to 24, it was a little higher than that. 55 classes were affected by this new ratio. Therefore, using the former ratio, only 26 classes, or 4% of our total elementary classrooms, would have been an overload this year. And as I mentioned to you earlier in the presentation, because the class size changes didn't come into effect until late summer after the allocations had happened, we're still taking the work to bring in the allocations in order to meet these needs. So one thing that's also a positive here is that through some negotiated language, elementary school teachers not only get paraeducator support, they also have the choice of compensation if they're in overload. And many of our Teachers have taken that compensation choice or option, so therefore we're not in the position of having to find 81 paraeducators to come in and provide overload support. We continue to work on this. We'd like to see this go down next year. And involuntary transfers, general education, last year we had 4.4. We had 0 involuntary transfers in general education this year. We did have 3.0 special education involuntary transfers this year, but we're very, very pleased. And for a district this size, I've been in a district much bigger than this, and this is phenomenal. So I like to make sure that the staff and the principals and everyone who worked together to make sure that we were staffing and hiring, they did their work. And of course, by September 15th, as is in the contractual language, qualifying schools received additional allocations as needed to make sure that we were addressing any situations where classes were over max. Principals received communication about overload support, and the special education involuntary transfers had been notified. And finally, we'd like to share with you our workforce demographics, and we'd like to show you a 7-year span from 2008, 2009 to 2014, 2015. We have seen an increase in our diversity, and it is around 2.32% from last year. And I'd like to share just a couple of things. While the student population of a district completely changes every 13 years, as we know, creating an opportunity for rapidly increasing diversity, the workforce of an organization does not rotate as quickly, as we know. As mentioned before, we have a 90% retention rate, meaning that every year we have approximately 400 employees who separate from the district, or approximately 140 teachers. So to put this in perspective, the district will need to hire approximately 800 certificated candidates of color to reflect the current diversity of our student population. And we're working on that. Due to the numbers of hires of each year, though, the ability to increase the overall diversity of the KSD workforce will require a multi-year strategy, and it will be incremental. But we are aggressive, and we're assertive, and we are going after it. And so every recruitment effort we make, every trip we take, is all in search of highly qualified, diverse candidates. And if you would like to see the numbers for teachers, we have a 4.12 increase in diversity from the year before in our KEA demographics. We plan to use all of this data from this report as we build our recruitment plan for the 2015-2016 school year. We're already thinking about it. Yes, school just started, and we're starting to think about next year. And so we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm actually going to start with Agda. So Agda, do you have any questions? She may be on mute.
She might be on mute, yeah.
Okay. We'll take it that she's on mute, and if she pops in, we'll go ahead.
No questions, thank you.
Making sure you're still awake. No.
It's a lag time.
It is a lag time, Washington, D.C. So Karen, any questions?
No, I had written some down, but I think they were clarified in what you said, so thanks.
Maya?
Well, first I want to say I had a meeting this morning with Pastor Braxton and Rhonda Wilkerson, and she shared with me how terrific it was working with Matt, and I just love that you're pulling a team together to recruit, and the efforts you've made are really wonderful, and so thank you so much for your work. I have, and I've talked about this ad nauseum with my colleagues, well, in this meeting, I should say. I have some questions about the exit survey, and the first question I had was, why are we gathering information from March until September and not the entire year?
We do gather it the whole year. We just wanted to, the purpose of this data was to show you a specified time period. Most people tend to exit from March to September, and so that was the majority of the candidates. But we do anytime, or not candidates, I go from candidates to employees. However, when an employee leaves, we always send the exit survey to the employee regardless of what time of year they
Okay.
They separate from the district.
So the report that we have for the exit survey doesn't include an entire year of information. It's from March to
That's correct. What we were trying to do is provide a snapshot that was directly associated with our prime recruitment season.
Okay. So I guess I'd like to hear from you. Given the information in the survey, what are your thoughts about retention? Because, it's great. The hiring and recruiting looks to be going really, really well. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about the retention.
There's no
Oh,
question.
given the exit survey information.
Correct. And there's no question that retention is our strongest recruitment tool. And it's not just the numbers, just saying the 90%, that only says so much. What happens is when a candidate calls their friend and says, hey, what's it like to work in Kent? That's part of your retention plan, right? Even if they're still with the district, we want them to say, it's a wonderful place to work. I feel recognized, I feel supported, I feel empowered. And so we've had several principals who've shared with us, we'd like to work with you on a retention plan, what that looks like, taking the data and really delving down and what are some of the things that we could do as a district. We're very open to that and interested in that. I think that's the next level because it is our strongest tool. When our employees are happy and they're excited about being here, that is our strongest way of recruiting. Do you have anything you want to add?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Russ?
So, I can barely talk, sorry. I apologize to everybody in advance. I want to mirror what Maya said, that I do feel that there is a degree of our ability to have more courageous conversations about the working climate in certain work groups. And so to the degree that we, as a board, can get that data on a more regular basis or in a more aggregate form, on a continuous, I would appreciate that too, because it saves us obviously all tremendous amount of work in trying to fill some of the vacancies where we might have been able to save some of the good employees. And I understand that some of the, we've been promoting within very well, so that's a wonderful problem to have. This is one of the first times where I'm not really cranky and need to cross the line and get all uppity cranky about our diversity efforts. I honestly feel for the first time in 3 years, there's a more robust effort, and not to say that that wasn't occurring in the past, but the numbers were not reflective of the efforts. And so maybe the hard work was not in the right direction. So I'm very grateful and very appreciative. And again, the more creative we can get in the recruitment, and it's not a question, it's more of a comment. What we did with ELL certification, sometimes we just need to create what we need with partners. And I know that we're hiring possibly someone with a military background for HR. And it seems to me that this district would benefit greatly with men and women who have served in the military who are either Hispanic or African American. So any efforts that might be going on with GI Bills and partnerships, I'd really, really love to see that. So thank you very much. I'm not well enough to be angry.
All right. Yes, also thank you. I really appreciate your forward thinking about where you're looking at already evaluating what happened this year in recruitment places that you went and looking at where you can go next year and really doing the research to find out more. And I understand it is a process, and it's nice to see that we are doing things going forward. And I know that, as we look at things like the exit survey and where it says, where there's the lower percentages, being able to dive into that will really help with retention. And I trust that that's, from what you've said, that that's on your plan of looking into those. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so next we have Dibble's data analysis, and Dr. Studry.
As you know, one of the things we do as a school district and gauge kind of where we are and how we're doing is through test results, and we have a number of those instruments that we use, and Luana's going to talk to us about the Dibbles and the results from last year.
Thank you.
President Strauss and members of the board and Dr. Sedri and Ms. Everett, thank you very much for having us here today. I have one of our coordinators of English Language Arts, Social Studies, and High Cap with me tonight to talk a little bit about and give some background about what's working in Kent. And to give that background, I want you to know about 3 weeks ago, we joined our and created our district support team. And this has been a team that has been in place for about 5 years in the Kent School District. It contains about 42 administrators and mentor teachers as well, representatives from academics and instruction, information technology, assessment, student services, title and categorical programs. We all come together and we really look at supporting our high support schools and our schools that need the extra resources. This year, for our very first meeting of the year, we took a little bit slightly different approach. We wanted to look at the data from last year in Dibbles, from 2013 to 2014, from fall to spring, and really with the purpose of what's working in Kent. Because we know we have great teachers that are working hard out there every day. We have great administrators that are providing leadership. And we wanted to really take this to the next level and promote that culture of shared responsibility between the schools. Because we have schools where it's really working and they're doing great things for students. And so this is an analysis of that data that this team did just a few weeks ago.
President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Stedry, Ms. Everett, thank you for allowing me to share with you today about our Dibbles scores. So by background, I want to give you just a minute to look over the slide to learn a little bit about the assessment. And Dibbles is one of the assessments that we've been doing in Kent for over 5 years. And it really actually started at some of our schools were doing Dibbles, and it kept growing and growing. And then we took it on as a district effort in terms of doing a quick screening assessment for how our kids are doing, and especially their early learning and their reading skills. And we do it K-3, it's required, and grades 4 through 6, it's optional. And it really is, what we're going to be looking at is two things. We're going to look at end-of-the-year scores, and we've done that quite a bit, looking at end-of-the-year scores and celebrating the schools that really have kids that are ending on level. In K1-2, they're able to read. The Dibbles data shows us that. But we're also going to look at schools that have extreme growth. So where you might have had kids come in and you only at the beginning of the year had 30% of your kids on or trajectory to be on level, and at the end of the year you ended with 70 or 80%. So we're really going to look at it from two lenses, both from overall achievement and then again at looking at that growth data. So this is the Dibbles composite end of the year data, and the composite is, Dibbles is made up of multiple measures, and in the composite score they pull those measures together to come up with the score, and it really is that combination of multiple measures that gives us the best overall estimate of a student's early literacy skills. And this was our end of the year data, and we really look at who are the kids that are at or above benchmark. Those are our kids that leave strong readers at the end of the school year, and then the kids that are slightly below is that middle column, and then our kids that are well below. Those would be like our Tier 3 kids that need quite a bit of Tier 3 instruction. And our goal is we want all kids leaving K1 and 2 reading. We want, 100%, certainly 80% of the kids would be a strong indicator in terms of coming out of our K2 programs.
So one of the things to think about when you think about, and so this is specific for kindergarten. This is a summary of our fall 2013 to our spring 2014 results from last year. One thing to understand about Dibbles is it is a rising benchmark. Meaning just like you would expect, the test we give these little kindergartners in the beginning, in the fall of 2013 is very different than what we expect from them by the spring of 2014 when they leave. And so So one of the things this team wanted to look at is how many of our schools, looking at that percent of increasing the number of students at or above benchmark, are really not just having students come in at benchmark, but then also, even with a rising benchmark, keeping those students at benchmark and rising above that and having percent growth. And so, so that's what this kind of takes a look at. So if we look at Emerald Park here, let's focus on them for just a second. In the fall of last year, 34% of the kindergartners at Emerald Park came in on benchmark. So that means their first few weeks of kindergarten, they came in, they had the skills they needed to be ready for kindergarten. Over the course of the year, after a whole year of instruction by those great kindergarten teachers and all the support folks supporting that kindergarten classroom, they increased by 35% the number of students on benchmark. So even though only 34% came in at benchmark, 69% of the kindergartners at Emerald Park left on benchmark. That is amazing growth that we really felt needed to be celebrated as the work that school is doing specifically to really increase those percent of students on benchmark. And you're going to see Millennium actually increased their percent of students on benchmark by 49%. And we just highlighted kind of the top 5 in each of those areas. So as you might expect, if you increase the percent of students at benchmark, you're going to decrease the percent of students that need Tier 2. It's just that kind of little extra intervention, or the Tier 3 support, which may, for some students, mean ELL support, special ed support, additional LAP or title support. So let's take a look at some of our schools that really made some great reductions in those scores as well. So as you might expect, Millennium is in both categories, because to increase their percent of students in core, they actually decreased the percent of students needing Tier 2 support. And so you'll see for those for students that needed that additional support, Millennium was able to decrease that percent of students by 17%, Emerald Park by 8%. I think this was really where some of the outstanding scores also came in. This is the Tier 3 students, the percent decreasing that need Tier 3 instruction. And so one of our first highlights there, just to kind of highlight, is Kent Elementary. They were able to decrease the percent of students needing Tier 3 instruction by 47%. And so I think this is just one way to look at the data and look at the growth and look where some of the great early learning is happening in our schools already. And just to kind of go back to that real quick, Kent was able to make such great gains that only 16% of their students needed Tier 3 support by the end of kindergarten. Now, like Ms. Stevens shared, we also always share this data with the board, and you may have seen it in a different format last spring. This is the summary results. This is where all our schools left, and like Ms. Stevens mentioned, our goal would be obviously we want 100%, but a system of support in an elementary school really works effectively when you're getting about 80% of your students by the end of the year at benchmark. And as you can see from our results here in Kent, we have 2 schools that are way above that, are getting 85% or so of their kindergartners at benchmark by the end of the year. And we have quite a few schools, probably the next 6 or 7, that are pretty close as far as making some great gains with students and being able to get those students at benchmark by the end of the year. Now, you might wonder, based on my previous slide, why we didn't highlight Fairwood. So if you look at this results here, Fairwood is in the far left. They have some of the highest percent of students leaving kindergarten at benchmark. And one of the reasons they didn't end up on my previous chart is because at Fairwood, 70% of their kindergartners come in on target. And so they do, through their great instruction over the course of the year, add 15%, so that they do have a rising benchmark and add 15% more students to that. But that's one of the reasons why they're not highlighted on the previous slide. But also, great scores here with getting students to benchmark by the end of kindergarten. So taking a look at first grade, very similar here. Grass Lake started, just to highlight one of our other schools, Grass Lake started last year with only 37% of their kindergarten students at benchmark, and at the end of the year with the rising benchmark ended with 72% of their students at benchmark by the end of first grade. Highlighting one of our other schools, and I tried to kind of mix it up a little bit because I think we have just such great things working that I wanted to highlight some of our other schools as well. So this is where we're looking for big decreases, and at Carriage Crest, they were able to decrease their percent of students needing Tier 2 support from 16% to only 3% of their students by the end of first grade needed additional Tier 2 support. That is amazing work when you think about what those first grade teachers are able to do for those second grade teachers. Sending those kids really, really close and being on grade level. That's amazing work by them. And then looking at Tier 3, this is where, especially by that, for those of you familiar with what, just that first grade growth that you get from the kids at that age, amazing Tier 3 reductions as well. At Sunrise Elementary, for instance, 35% of their students enter first grade needing Tier 3 support. At the end of last year, only 5% of their students at Sunrise needed Tier 3 support. And this is that snapshot as well. And as I mentioned earlier, Carriage Crest was one of our schools that I highlighted on the last chart, but also due to their growth and increase, you can see their percent of first graders that leave reading, they are ready for second grade, is near 90%. And that is really where we'd want for all our schools. But as you see on that far left part of the chart, we have lots of schools that are very ready and just have a few percent more students to get to target to get to that 80%. So really nice work going on in first grade. Second grade, we took that same approach. At Sue's Creek, 51% of the students enter second grade at benchmark, and at the end of the year, they have about 63%. They also have a nice reduction in Tier 2 students. And Pine Tree, for instance, was able to take a nice reduction in reducing their students that needed Tier 3 support from 44 to 34%. So as you see, so some of our ending results with second grade is not as close to that 80 and 90% mark as we would like. And so we are really looking forward to this year to triangulate the data with our new iReady, as well as ERLA, to take a really close look at second grade. So because we know that is a huge transition for kids in their reading skills and developmentally, to get ready for that end of second and to get ready for that content in third. And that target really needs to be 80 to 90%. And so we're really working hard to kind of triangulate the data this year, take a closer look at what's working in Kent. And to take and give us a few more details about how we're going to take a closer look, as you can imagine, we actually need to get into some classrooms, talk to some leaders, talk to some teacher leaders about what's working. And Ms. Stevens is going to give some details about how we're going to do that.
So this slide is where we're starting for this school year. This is our beginning of the year DIBELS data. So we have some work to do here to get our kids all up on level. And I'm excited to have this task. Go and find out what's working in Kent. And what we've done is we sort of wanted to look at it from a couple of different angles. We want to see and ask the teachers, what are you doing that's working? What do you attribute to the success that you have in your building in terms of moving kids that are well below benchmark up to benchmark? So we put together a survey that we've sent out to some targeted schools, asking teachers what's working, what are you doing, what do you attribute to the success, what support do you need, and what are your goals, your expectations, those things, to really find out what's working at those buildings. In addition to that, we put together an interview that we are going out to targeted schools and asking the principal, assistant principal if they have one, the instructional coaches, and some of the leadership of the school, we're interviewing, what are the systems that you have in place that really helps to support high success in your early reading program? So we'll do those interviews, and then in addition to that, we want to go see what's working. So we put together some teams of teachers, administrators, looking at from all different lenses, inclusive education, ELL, all the different lenses, what's working in those buildings. So we want to go into the classrooms, come in, observe, take some notes, see what's working, see if what we're seeing matches some of the things that they were telling us, and gather some information that way. So we have all of those pieces that are in place. And the schools that we have targeted based on the earlier data, Kent Elementary, Millennium Elementary, and Emerald Park Elementary were three that stood out in quite a few of the grade level categories as schools that showed great growth. And then one that didn't stand out as much, but has had consistent good results and good growth is Martin Sortun Elementary. And what we see is their kindergartners come in about 58% and leave first grade about 58%, leave about 80%, and that 80% is consistent every single year. So they start at first grade at 80%, they go up a little, start second grade. So they're really one of the schools that when a kid comes out of second grade at that school, they're on level, ready to move on into the additional reading that we have in our third grade and the upper grades. So Martin Sortun's another one of the schools that we want to go look at, interview, talk to their teachers, and gather some information. Okay, and that brings us to the end of our presentation. Welcome questions.
So we'll start with Maya this time.
So I was particularly interested in the numbers for Millennium and Pine Tree. And the reason is I've been sort of following the Race to the Top funding for the two schools. And it was interesting to see the kindergartners at Millennium had really high marks, but when you get into first and second grade, it dips. So I guess you said that you'll be going to the schools and trying to understand what's working. But I'd really like, some sort of a study on the funding we have through Race to the Top and how that's affecting, because it's only affecting about 20% of our kids in Millennium and Pine Tree at the Birch Creek apartment complex. It's a lot of money, so it would be good to understand where that funding is going and how that's affecting progress for those two schools.
Well, and I'm thinking even within the building, the successes that they're seeing in the lower grade, how can we share that with the first grade and the second grade so that they can continue successes throughout?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Russ?
I'm good.
Okay. Karen?
What's the next step after we do the survey and find out what's working and what's not? What do we do then with that information?
So what we want to do is take that information and try to work with our teams, our DST teams that are going out to our high support schools and sort of work to get those systems in place at those schools. So if we see that really targeted, and what we're hearing from some of the surveys, about half of them it's just really good use of data so that the instruction is highly targeted. So trying to take some of the information that we pull from those successful schools and sharing it with our schools that need more support, that are struggling. The other thing is sometimes we want schools to see other schools in our district that are making a difference, that can do it. And so that we don't get hung up in our kids are low income or our kids are ELL. And when we have schools that have that, we have that same information and we have great success. So it's another way that we can take and use some of those sites to bring some of our other schools in to see what's working.
How open will the schools be, or are they other schools who the information is going to come to? From the district support team, how willing are they going to be to implement some of these changes? I mean, is it, gee, why don't you try this, or it's time? What's the deal?
I think that one of the benefits that we have is that many of our schools that need the higher level of support also have been identified as focus elementary schools this year or priority, and are also getting OSPI coaching from an OSPI coach. And so these schools are making specific plans to address these gains. And so we're in, I think, a really great position to provide that and build that shared culture of responsibility by creating some of these sites that can really highlight what's working. Not just bringing central office folks into a school building to necessarily generate like how to do this or to make these shifts, but really be able to create also some model sites of, hey, this is working, let's take a look, and so you can see how it works every day with 22 little ones in front of you, and how do you separate that time, how do you create a schedule, how do you create a system of support. And I think it's going to be great because we have it working here. And we don't have to go to another school district to see it. We don't have to go very far away. And for many of these schools, the school is just right down the road.
Thanks.
Agda, anything?
Wait for it.
I know.
Sorry, it takes me a while to unmute myself. I have a comment to make. The data about the kindergartners and their scores at the beginning of this year. Are you hearing me okay?
You're breaking up a little bit.
Fading.
So
What did you say?
That's better.
you're breaking up just a little.
Okay, I'll talk closer to the mic.
Okay.
The data about kindergartners this year, with 45% of them at or above and 20% well below, it reminded me of the importance of the early learning work that we're doing and expanding the preschool opportunities and working with early learning providers in the community and other partners such as Reach Out and Read It with parents to help get their kids ready for school, that those efforts are all really important too in a piece of this work.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just had one question just for clarification. So when you're looking at the Dibbles numbers at the ones, at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, we have quite a few schools that have quite a bit of movement. So we have students coming in and out. So when you're looking at when we see a number at the beginning of the year and the number at the end of the year, are we looking at the same students, or is it including all the students that are moving as well?
Actually, so the one of the data sources that Ms. Stevens keeps updated, it actually keeps the kids cohorted together. Okay. And so it actually takes out that idea of maybe transiency of our populations. And actually, we did this data analysis just based on growth. And then Ms. Stevens ran our analysis based on keeping the cohorts together. And I can tell you it almost mirrored each other. And so I think that really shows that our kids that are in Kent are really benefiting from the instruction that's going on in the classrooms.
Great, thank you. All right, thank you very much. All right, next we have 3.03, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report.
It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Fortunato, who will make the presentation and tell you about this award.
President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Stedry, and Ms. Everett. The Kent School District's Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the year ended August 31st, 2013, which was last year. Here it is. Represents the 29th consecutive year that the district has recognized by the Association of School Business Officials International, or ASBO, with the Certificate of Excellence for Financial Reporting. In this report, it includes complete financial information for the district, as well as extensive additional statistical information compiled and reported in an internationally recognized standard format. Of the approximately 13,500 school districts across the United States, only 108, or 0.8%, have achieved the award for 25 or more years. There are only 3 districts in the state of Washington that have received the award for more than 25 years, and they're Kent, ourselves, Everett, and Auburn. And also, in addition to those districts, only 4 other districts in the state have received this award for 1213. That's Clover Park, Renton, Spokane, and Tacoma. To produce the CAFR, It takes more than just one person. It takes a total team effort. And I want to acknowledge some of the people who helped make this award possible. There's Julie Lottie, our accounting supervisor, who helps prepare all the financial statements. Bonnie Connor, our fixed assets administrator, who helps compiles information for the notes to the financial statements, gathers the information for and prepares the statistical tables, and prepares reports on the district's capital assets. I want to thank the print shop staff. We're going to use a tight deadline to get it printed and published, and then so we can send it off to ASBO. And of course, Debbie Smith, our executive assistant, who takes all my Excel spreadsheets and all the Word documents and puts it all together, and tracks all the changes and makes sure the format's all consistent, and make sure the table of contents, the numbers all match up on the table of contents, all the introductory letters are there, the financial statements, notes, and all the statistical tables. These individuals took time from their regular duties, and their efforts are greatly appreciated. I have been asked many times by my peers who wonder, why do we do a CAFR since it's not required by the state? All that's required is the F-196. Well, first of all, I think the CAFR validates the district's commitments to financial integrity. It adds credibility. It also shows the community our commitment to high-quality financial reporting, and it is a fact that districts that prepare CAFRs do achieve a higher bond rating by disclosing what's requested for credit evaluations. It also shows that we are transparent by sharing financial information above and beyond what generally accepted accounting principle requires. And finally, the CAFRs are reviewed by professionals from governmental accounting and auditing in the fields of consulting, certified public accountants, and school system financial management. And we fully expect when the CAFR for the 2013-14, which we're working on now, is submitted and reviewed by ASBO, we will get our 30th consecutive Certificate of Excellence Award. We get a plaque. We get a certificate suitable for framing. It's here somewhere. There it is. And then when I go to the ASBO meetings every year, it's always nice because they say everybody got an award for more than 15 years stand up. Okay? 20 years, remain standing. I'm still there. 25, I'm still there. Then they go 26, then they go 29. There was only 3 people more than us at the convention that had more than 29 years. And I did find in the files our first CAFR. And it's 12 pages. No, it's 24 pages. 24 pages. And our fund balance at it was $2 million. $2
million.
$2 million. The CAFR today is 150 pages. And the requirements today are going to be so much more. Next year we have pensions to include in here, so that's going to be more interesting to do. So it's a lot of work involved. I'll say enjoy, but we like doing this because it is actually good work here, and I think it shows the commitment of the district.
Thank you. And I think that this deserves a round of applause.
Thank you.
I know there's an awful lot of work that goes into it, so thank you very much. Okay, so next moving on to 4.0, I believe, Dr. Sedry, we have a school district annual report.
Mr. Loftus and his staff have put that together and is here to give you a short report on the report.
Short report on the report. I like that.
President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Stedry, Ms. Everett, thank you for allowing me to come to you tonight. You have in front of you the latest annual report. These were mailed just last week to, you should have gotten them by now. They go out for a little between 69,000 and 70,000 homes in our geographical service area. But we also send them out to an additional 2,300 homes that are employees or advisory members who live outside the service area. And that leaves us approximately 3,000 that we then have for distribution in the district at front desk and that sort of thing. We're beginning that process right now. I think you'll see that it's a little, the right term is not lighter because that makes it sound like it's not as robust or but it has a lighter feel than it had in the past. We've done that purposely. We tried a new design team to give it just a fresher feel to it. We appreciate that each of you had sections and each of you took part and led one or two of our strategic goals and explained those. One thing that what is different about the edition that you have in front of you and the ones that were delivered to the homes is if you open it up to the middle section in the finance, we regretfully did not include the disclaimer that you see in the top right-hand corner on the distribution, saying that whenever you put out a financial report, it's always the most recently audited numbers. In our case, because of the printing time, that's always one school year behind. So although it's noted as the 2013-2014 financial report, those are 2012-2013 numbers. When we received them after printing 75,000 of them, within 30 seconds of that moment, we realized that had been left out. So we've added that into these distribution moments. Addition. We've also added that to the electronic versions that's available for people online and that we'll be sending out electronically. So I feel like by putting it out there, by speaking to it tonight, putting it in the official records, it'll be in BoardDocs, people will know. That's a very common practice, and anyone who's looking at the numbers, who looks at annual reports would know that, but we just didn't want anybody to feel that we were trying to shift numbers around. So with that, let me just, before I get to your questions, I need to thank many, many people who are part of this, and our IT team, from design and layout folks. I'm not going to try to name the names because I'd leave somebody else, but design, layout, content, the content experts that we go out to get this information. Of course, you yourselves who did some of the writing, our printing folks and the print shop and our exterior vendors that we use, the proofreaders and the folks who help us in the distribution to the folks in the warehouse. When these things, a truckload of these arrive, so it's not an easy logistical effort, but it's an effort of many people to put out a nice quality piece that quickly and concisely gives an idea of how the district is doing. And finally, I want to thank the 4,000 plus employees of the district who every page reflects their work. If the numbers look good, if the message is rings in your ears, if you're happy with what it's saying, well, that means you're happy with the work that these folks are doing, because there's a lot of work that goes into making us a successful school district that serves students well, that is ably administered, financially sound. There's a lot of good news, and all that good news is good people in our district. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions from the board on the report?
I just have a comment. I think it was beautifully done, very readable, it was, fresh is a good word. It's just really fresh and colorful and.
Thank you.
Just well done.
I'll pass that along to the team,
Please
because
do.
a lot of folks went into that.
Yeah, I would concur with that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next on, we have 4.02, which is the board intern report. And just wanted to know if anybody had any questions or anything they wanted to discuss in regards to this.
So, I've got a couple concerns. One, I think it's a good report, and hopefully all of you have met with Camille. Did you, Maya? Did you have a chance? Not yet? All right, so she still needs to meet with.
Next board meeting, I want to have her come and talk to you about the report.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a good chance to really review this, and then maybe with Curtis's a little bit direction, because we start to get into political things and advocacy. So I think it might be worth to explore and to discuss. I'm pretty sure the levy committee, again, I think we ran by far the most efficient levy campaign in the state, dollar per vote. I mean, it's not even close with the number of votes that we got, with how little money we raised, and we would have virtually raised none if KEA didn't really step up and contribute a significant amount. But there's money left in the pot, and if there are political efforts that need to be done, that might be a good committee to revive. So, but for us to discuss later.
I do know that in talking to Camille, she does have a conflict until 8:30 at night on Wednesdays. So we might have to, if we have her come next week or next board meeting to discuss, we might have to put her a little bit later in the agenda to be able to do that. But if you need contact information, if Camille hasn't reached out to you, I'm happy to provide that for you so that you can talk to her as well about the reports and the recommendations in there. Okay. All right.
Oh, and I would
sorry.
just encourage the public to read this because we passed 79 million. We're going to actually vote on something here in a little minute to collect, $170,000 more. But the gap of what the voters approved and what we can collect is $13 million. So that's the point of this intern, is to look at policy and politics in, well, how do we get what the voters have given us the permission to collect, but the state prohibits us to? So it's worth a look on this intern's report on the website.
Great. Thank you, Russ. Agda, anything you wanted to add? I want to make sure.
Yes, sorry it takes me so long.
It's okay.
I wanted to second Russ's suggestion of encouraging people to read the report, because K-12 education funding is extremely complex in Washington State, and the levy is just one piece of it. And I think Camille did a good job of trying to explain that complexity and how that sort of impacts us. And part of the history is that changes to the levy system have been attempted numerous times in legislative history, and typically sort of haven't been successful. So if we decide we want to take some action on this, it would require really sort of delving into that more and getting some expert advice about strategies, and also to keep in mind that it's almost sort of too late for this next legislative session, because legislators really have their bills in mind already. And so if we want to take action for this session, we would have to act quickly.
Thank you. Okay. So go ahead, Maya.
So Agda just reminded me, there is this roadmap board directors meeting on different issues. I wonder if we can even pull together other board members to review this and work with them.
That's a good idea.
So,
I know Camille's reached out to a couple of different boards, but I don't know if she's shared it out with them yet, so.
okay.
I don't think Seattle and Tacoma would be the right
No.
districts,
Star
but
area.
others that are below the grandfathered.
Right. Okay, great. All right, thank you. So we'll work on having Camille come to our next board meeting to go over the recommendations in person. All right, so we're moving.
Also, I was going to
sorry.
remind everyone that Camille came to the WASDA Legislative Assembly with me and got advice and talked to a lot of people there. That content was put into her report.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to go on to our discussion and approvals. And I do have some cards on a couple of the different issues, and with the board's permission, I'd like to do the cards first before we have our discussions. Okay, so we're going to start with 5.01, which is in regards to impact fees, and I do have two cards on this. So I have Keith James and Rob Hendrickson, and again, if you can use this mic, you will have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good evening, Board. Keith James. Thanks for having me again, or providing an opportunity to speak. I'm mostly here just to answer any questions, if any happen to come up, as a representative for the applicant seeking the waiver. With about a minute of the 3 minutes, I did want to provide just clarification on the current waiver request with a very brief history. So our initial request through the city was for a 100% fee waiver, which was consistent with the Covington Municipal Code. When we wrote the specific request initially to the board following our commercial site development plan process with the city, it was for a 90% waiver. And that was my first time here in front of the board at the September 10th meeting, I believe. And I think based on really the very clear sort of lack of consideration from the board, thought we needed to rethink that position, requested that the decision be delayed, as well as requested or revised the waiver request from 90% to 50%. And with that in mind, really we were still unable to afford any more than the 10%, which would be a 90% waiver, hoping and believing that due to the city's commitment and dedication to the project, that gap funding might be available from them in the form of other reduced or foregone fees. So to clarify, it's my understanding that the staff's met based on superintendent's recommendation at the last meeting, and that an 80% waiver is the current waiver being considered. I'd just like to reiterate that with it in mind that the applicant would owe 10 and the city would contribute the other 10. And as I said, I'll be available for questions if there are any.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Rob?
Good evening, President Strauss, members of the board, Dr. Stedry, and Ms. Everett. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you this evening. Tomorrow, Mayor Hardo and I will present a State of the City address to the Covington Chamber. In that address, we talk about the effective partnerships that Covington has cultivated over the years with various cities, districts, and agencies. These partnerships have produced a number of successful outcomes. One successful partnership has been in place since 1999, and it's an interlocal agreement with Kent School District, which allows for the collection of school impact fees. Since only cities, towns, and counties can collect impact fees on the behalf of school districts, the absence of an interlocal agreement would reduce the amount of funds available for construction for any school district. On an annual basis, the district suggests the amount of the impact fee, which the city has never challenged. During the life of the agreement, the city has remitted over $5 million to the district. Approximately 90% of those fees come from single-family homes, with the remainder from multifamily projects. Over the next 12 to 24 months, there are 3 projects slated to come on board that will bring the district $1 to $2 million in impact fees. This is just for the city of Covington. Given that Kent School District boundaries fall within other cities, the total impact fees collected by your district are likely to be much higher. Information requested by Dr. Stedry and provided last Thursday after our productive meeting between city and district staff shows the city has waived $1.5 million in taxes, building, planning, and impact fees, traffic impact fees for this project. In addition, Inland Group has committed to over $700,000 in infrastructure improvements adjacent to their project and adjacent to your school district property in lieu of paying traffic impact fees. This includes 1,100 lineal feet of 2-lane street, which includes underground utilities such as power, water, sewer, etc. These improvements will reduce the cost of development for any prospective buyer of district property. As you heard Inland Group state, their initial request of a 90% waiver is required to make the project work. The city has reviewed its own finances and offered to add another 10% to bring the waiver to 80%. The difference from a full collection to 80% is a little over $500,000. If the project is abandoned, then the total collected is zero. The city is asking the district to consider an 80% waiver on this one project. This project is the only project where a waiver has been given consideration and likely will be the last in Covington for some years to come. There is concern that a precedent will be set by agreeing to such a waiver. Other cities would expect the same treatment. That may be true to some extent, but I would submit that a different type of precedent may be set if the district considers otherwise. It will send a message to other developers considering projects of this nature, projects that bring affordable housing to neighboring communities and cater to the underserved section of the population that get the chance to afford to have a roof over their heads. It will say that perhaps this area isn't the best investment, which in turn will perhaps send developers of other projects looking elsewhere to build. That would be an outcome that would benefit no one, and it can be avoided. Work with Inland Group and us, continue the partnership that has been built over the years. Let us see how the Kent School District and the City of Covington can successfully move ahead and continue to bring impact fee dollars to the district. Thank you for listening to us over the last 3 meetings, working with us over the years, and for the thoughtful discussion and deliberation you are about to have. We're here as a resource for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. All right, so we actually have our first is 5.01. This is Affinity at Covington, and I'm asking for a motion to waive the school impact fees for the Inlands Group Affinity at Covington 55 and over age-restricted housing development.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I don't want any part of giving up school funding for private development. I just do not. I don't want to compromise. I don't want to be party to any kind of subsidization of a business model that doesn't seem to work. And whether or not that's because low-income rental is really low, and they can't collect enough rent to pay for the project over the life of the year of the loan, or the construction costs are too high. But I figure that what the city's already given, the 1.5, and the 600 or 500 that we're being asked to give, it's about $11,000 per unit of tax forgiveness.
The rest, just to clarify, so are you speaking specifically to the 55 and over? Because that one is the one that we're talking about right now.
I'm
and that's
chomping at the bit.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You could have shot me a long time ago.
I wanted to make sure which way you were going, so,
This is the
okay.
wrong one.
So,
Never mind.
and Dr. Cedric, go ahead.
Well, just a point on the state statute is very clear that they are not to be charged impact fees, and it's also in our piece of work in the cities also. So it's not.
On the 55 and over,
under-
so the rest.
Because it's an older
Yeah.
restricted community.
Why'd you let me talk so long?
Well, I was trying to find a place to interrupt you.
I've been saving my energy all
Catch your
night.
breath. Okay, catch your breath. Okay, so, Ogda, any discussion on this motion?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of 5.01A, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Ogda.
She's on a 3-hour
Yes or no?
delay.
She was an aye.
I'm saying
Yes.
she said aye, okay.
Yeah, she did say aye. Sorry, I've got to remember to be a little bit slower on the go to the no because we've got a delay with Ogda. Okay, so next is 5.01B. And because there are multiple recommendations here, I'm
Are
going to.
there? I don't know.
Well, we,
It's either, is it, so, I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, that's okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I think in fairness, unless somebody opposes, there were some different recommendations that were put together for us. And if it's okay with the board, we'll have Dr. Stedry just kind of walk through those quickly for us.
There are 4 recommendations that we have developed for you to look at and discuss tonight and hopefully select one. They are based on requests from the developer and the city or so forth. Decision option A would be a decision by the board not to waive any of the school impact fees for the Polaris at Covington development. By doing that, you're saying we're going to not waive anything and we're going to let the existing school impact fees take effect. Option B would be a decision by the board to, because the Inland Group's project, the Polaris at Covington development, is a dedicated residential units for occupancy by low, moderate income household, approve a 50% waiver of school impact fees for that development. That's a 50%. And the key to these 3 recommendations coming now is that the development is for low, moderate income households. Option C has 2 parts. There are 2 waivers. One is, and this is an 80% waiver with recommendation 1 reading as follows. The Board of Directors, because the Inland Group's Polaris at Covington development is dedicated residential units for occupancy by low to moderate income household, approves an 80% waiver of the school impact fees for the Polaris at Covington development. That's a straight 80% request, and that's the request from the city. The other recommendation on this item would read as follows. That the Board of Directors, because the Inland Group's Polaris at Covington development is dedicated residential units for occupancy by low, moderate income households, approves an 80% waiver of the school impact fees for the Polaris at Covington development, and that this recommendation is also contingent upon the City of Covington, A, following through with their promise of cooperation with the Kent School District to expedite plan review and permit fees for the new Covington Elementary School, and B, entering into discussions with the Kent School District regarding the City of Covington fully paying for a school resource officer at Kentwood High School beginning with the 15-16 school year. And the last option, D, is a decision to waive 65% of the impact fees for the Polaris at Covington development, and has the same basic two recommendations. One is a straight 85% waiver, and the second part of that is that there would be a 65% waiver, and that the city, excuse me, and that is contingent upon the city of Covington following through with their promise of cooperation with the Kent School District to expedite plan review and permit fees for the new Covington Elementary School. That piece has already been committed to writing by the Director of Community Development at Covington, and I feel very confident that will happen. And that's a huge thing for us from a construction standpoint, and will save us a number of dollars as we get ready to bid and plan for that building. So that's A, is no waiver. B is a waiver of 50%. C is a waiver of 80% with one caveat or a straight 8%. And D is a 65% waiver, and that's the midpoint in between 80 and the 20.
Thank you, Dr. Stedry. Okay, so I'm not quite sure how we want to proceed. I know, Russ, you want to finish your comments left off where you were at?
Yeah, sorry. So I guess you have a couple options. You could read the first recommendation. Or,
Do we want to go one by one, or do we want to have some discussion first, is I guess my question.
well, I don't know.
So, what's my question to everybody on the board is which way we want to do it. I can read each possible motion, and we can discuss and vote on it. Or we can do as we have in the past and kind of get a little bit of, where people are at first and then narrow down the motions.
Well, I know Maya had wanted to get Dr. Sedry's opinion and Dr. Vargas's opinion.
Well, we weren't there at the meeting, so I'd like to hear, your thoughts on this.
You're asking me for my recommendation. As the staff, I cannot tell you anything different than the policy says, that you should waive the impact fees. That's what your policy says.
That we should?
You should.
We
You should not waive the fee.
Oh, okay, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Should not.
Guys in the
It's like, wait a
audience
minute.
really excited.
Make it perfectly clear. And that's just what your capital facilities plan says you need to do, and I can't really go against that.
Okay, so policy.
But I will support whatever the board does.
And legally, we cannot reduce more than.
Cannot go more than 80%. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So
That doesn't leave us room.
I'm not going to, so policy says, let's just go there. And there's no disrespect to the city of Covington and Mr. James. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. I mean, it's not a matter of, they're trying to put something pretty great together. And what troubles me is that I don't like being pulled into responsibility of that success of a project. It doesn't feel like a business model that, it's just, I'm philosophically opposed to granting, I was opposed to Boeing's forgiveness, and we see what they did with the jobs. I'm opposed to any special treatment of corporate interests versus why don't individuals get the same, hey, I don't want to pay my tax bill this year. So, precedent aside, it's just fundamentally, and then here's my last point. There are going to be hundreds of, if not thousands of hours of volunteers for the Kent Schools Foundation to raise maybe $100,000 or $200,000. And in 15 minutes, we can dismiss $500,000. That just feels so wrong and disheartening that it would make me really not want to volunteer for the Kent Schools Foundation anymore, because I just gave away $500,000, and now I'm here 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday trying to raise $10,000. I'm not that dumb. So that's just my opinion. I fully support taking out the first resolution or the first recommendation that we don't give a waiver.
Thank you. Other comments from the board? Agda?
No comment at this point.
Okay, any particular way of which you'd like us to go as far as what we have in front of us as far as the options?
Yeah, I'd be leaning toward A of no waiver or B of the 50%.
So you're saying either A or B?
So if we
Correct.
go through, if we start with A, we're done. And I mean, if it passes, we're done.
Correct.
So,
We want to start with A?
yeah, I think so.
Maya?
I'm not in support of A.
Okay. Is there anything that you're more in support of, or?
I'm having a really hard time with it. I don't see it as extreme as Russ is seeing it, and I think I don't see this as a private development coming in and looking at profiteering from this this development. I see it as human service matter, and I also see there's a negotiation component of it where Covington is forwarding some, not concessions, but some offers. And that's the part that I'm really unclear about, how much exactly that's going to benefit us. And so not knowing that, I'm still unclear about it. Although, Dr. Stedry, when you explained it, it seemed like it was a big issue, that they are following through on their promise of cooperation with the district to expedite the plan review and permit fees. And I don't know what that means in financial terms.
If you can cut 3 to 4 months out of plan review or a half a year, you gain that much more time for construction, and depending on when you bid it, you could save more money than if you had to wait 5, 6 months out. If there's a reduction of permit fees, that's dollars saved to the district that you don't have to put in the project.
So it's somewhat hard to quantify.
It's hard to
because
quantify it
you
at this
don't know
point in
the
time, but I can tell you that if we can get the plans in there and they don't sit in the bin waiting for Mr. Hart's staff to get to them, and we can get them to the top, we can move on and be be done in 3, 4 months, contingent upon what his staff and he's indicated in his material that they'll put it at the top of the work list. It's a matter of timing. It's a matter of getting it done so we can go out and bid.
So can I make a comment? I just like, so Maya, so one, I just honestly don't, even if I wasn't philosophically opposed, and I'd say I was really, really open-minded. I don't know what the developer's fee is per unit. Typically, my understanding is 9%. So say the developer's fee is $3,000 a unit. But because we can't give him the $3,000 per unit waiver, he's not going to get his development fee. So again, unfortunately, we're not in a give and take, can't ask a whole bunch of questions. Maybe we redirect staff to go back to get more detail. I'm not there. I'm ready to just vote for the no waiver. But if we still don't know what the profit margin is. I know it's not going to be zero. I hope Mr. James is not working for free, but I feel a struggle in we're giving the developer his development fee if we waive this, or we're only giving him a third of it. We don't know. So I'm not saying that we're contributing $600,000 to his profit. We just might be making them break even at a 9% development fee. But who knows who the general contractor is and the markup fees of their subcontractors. We're not in that business. We don't know how construction works. But I respect Mr. James tremendously because I honestly think, the city is totally outmatched, and I don't want to be that way.
And I guess I'd just like a point of clarification, Curtis, as far as or could maybe be Dr. Stedry, as far as impact fees are used specifically for capital projects, and they cannot be used for,
And yes, they can only be used for capital projects that are come about because of an increase in enrollment. They are not just general use dollars for construction. They have to be somewhat tied to an increase in enrollment, in this case, in the Covington schools.
So financially speaking, we're not getting close to what the cost of a waiver fee, because we're getting a one-time sunk cost and not an annualized operating expenses due to those increased enrollment. So just makes everything that Dr. Stedry's saying makes me feel worse and worse, if that's possible.
Maybe one of the questions is if we get, let's go from the premise that we don't waive the fees and we get the $600 and some odd thousand that has to be paid. What happens to that money? It's going to go into the impact fee account, and we're going to track it to the Covington schools. We can use some of that or all of that to go into the new school, but we have to be very specific about it because it has to be used for things that are caused by an increase in your enrollment. That's the purpose of it. And the intent legislatively is to help offset construction for new facilities. That's the overriding intent. The problem that you have is a new elementary school is a little bit more than $600,000. So.
Dr. Stedry opens his mouth, and here comes. So when we can't go to the public this year because our levy didn't pass strong enough for a bond, and we're going to be going to the public in a couple of years, I feel like I'm channeling Tim right now. If we go to the public and ask them for a construction bond, if I was running the no campaign, I'd be all over the forgiveness of $600,000. You gave away, I call it $1 million. I mean, you gave away $1 million. So, and you're coming to the public and taxing me when you can't even tax Mr. Developer? That'd slaughter us. So now we got the bond.
Okay, but we're still not making that distinction that this is a developer dedicating residential units for occupancy by low, moderate income households. I mean, that doesn't make a difference, what you're saying.
I don't care if it was,
Okay, that's
free massages for board members every Friday and a spa where we could actually have a real retreat. I'm opposed to any
okay.
See the Monday morning headline.
Yeah.
subsidized fees.
Okay.
Might help to just try to take each.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and take each motion. So I've got to see if I can find them here so I know them. Yes, thank you. Okay, I've got Karen's things. Okay, so first recommendation is that the board, a motion to approve that the Board of Directors not waive any school impact fees for the Polaris at Covington development.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so at this point, we could have additional discussion in regards to this. So I guess, because I haven't said anything, I'll say something now that we're in discussion. So I struggle with this. I waver back and forth, because one of the things that, if there are things, I look at other decisions we've made as a board. So if I go back to a property decision that we made recently where we gave a piece of land to a neighboring district in regards to getting something back, and that looks like, in the end, will be more for us. I know that sounds really bad, but, and if I look at the different things that we've done in different decisions, and part of me looks at the fact that, yes, I think the impact fees are absolutely crucial and we need impact fees. I also know that currently Covington does not have any low or moderate income housing. And there are students that would be impacted and have a need for that. So part of me wants, thinks about, okay, should we go to, I don't want, 80% is too much for me. I might be willing to look at a lower amount, the 65%, while we're looking at, are there other things that we can possibly benefit from as far as when we go to build the school and impact the different fees that way. But at this point, as much as I agree, Russ, with what you're saying in the bond and the different things that way, I really struggle with saying we'll do no waiver at all based on information that we've been given. So, any other questions or
I
comments?
tend to go along the lines with Russ, having been a teacher all my adult life and knowing how tight funds have always been for education and knowing what we do have coming, the needs that we have for the bond issues. I don't know. And at the same time, I can see the need for the low and moderate income housing. But as Russ said, one of our last meetings, that's going to bring in kids that are more than likely going to need more services that are EP&O money's going to have to go to, so.
Well, but again, the money could only be used for the building part of it. It won't be able to use for the other general education funds
Yeah,
where those
so that's what I'm
kids would
saying, is that we're going to pull money from another pot to help
Oh, to
service
help
these,
service.
the kids that are possibly coming in there. So I'm sort of, I'm leaning more toward the A, I guess.
Okay. Maya, any additional comments?
No, I'm leaning towards B or D.
I would just say, so Karen brought up, capital and construction, and, by all indications, we're going to talk about it next, but 1351 is likely going to pass. And there's in the analysis, there's no, well, one, I don't want to get us distracted, but there's no money for capital projects. So if you're reading the tea leaves and what the future holds, we need every couple $100,000 we can get.
Thank you. Agda, anything for discussion before I call for the vote?
I'll just say again that as I mentioned, I was leaning toward either A or B. And the two reasons I'm leaning toward A are that is what our policy currently is. And I'm sort of unclear about the benefit to us to give away, not collect the money or collect a reduced amount, and what we would get in return for that, to me, it's sort of uncertain. So I don't see how we're going to benefit better by a compromise.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote on the motion, which is to not waive any of the school board impact fees for the Polaris at Covington development. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nay. So motion passes. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And we will move on to 5.02. This is Resolution 1454, revision of school programs and operations levy. I'm asking for a motion to approve 1454, Resolution 1454, revision of the 2015 school programs and operations levy.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions on this motion?
I was just going to ask for the audience benefit for an explanation of why we're needing to do this, because I think that helps to help educate people around the complexity of levies.
Dr.
I'd like to let
Mr. Fortunato.
Mr. Fortunato, who puts all this together, answer that question.
When we passed the budget back in August, we put in there basically an estimate of what the 2015 levy would be. When the state issues a new report, the F780 report, which is the calculation of our levy base and what we can levy, and that number came in at a higher rate than what we estimated. So this resolution, it's still a rollback, but it's not as big as we thought it was going to be. And so for 2015 levy, our levy authority will actually increase by $170,000, and since the school year goes over 2 levy years, for this fiscal year, we'll actually increase it by $89,442, what we could collect from our levies. If we don't pass this resolution tonight, it goes back to what we budgeted, what was in our budget document back in August.
Thank you. So any further questions or comments in regards to the motion on the table?
Seems like a no-brainer.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion on the table, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion passes. So next we have 5.03, resolution number 1455 to oppose initiative 1351. Before I actually read the motion, we do have quite a few cards. Are we okay with hearing the cards first? Okay. So because of the number of cards I have, I'm going to ask that you please stay to the 3 minutes. And again, you'll be using this microphone over here. And I'm going to call who's up and who's on deck. Okay, so first up is Leslie Bedke, and on deck is Kathy Jones.
President Strauss, members of the board, and Dr. Stedry, I find it interesting that the very first time I stepped up to this podium, I was supporting the levy, and I was encouraging the board to go for the full levy amount. I offered to write a check that night to support the levy. I offered and did follow through on phone banking, as did many of the KEA members in this room. So I find it somewhat disconcerting tonight that the board is considering opposing the class size initiative. We are here tonight to talk to you about the 81 overloads and the other negative impacts that class size has on our students. Resolution 1455 mischaracterizes Initiative 1351 as a one-size-fits-all class size reduction policy, and it misrepresents opinions and states them as facts. As it stands, Washington has a one-size policy in place. We're 47th in the nation out of 50 states in the largest class sizes, 47 out of 50 in the largest class sizes. That's unacceptable. Kent teachers went on strike over class size 5 years ago. This class size initiative, 1351, is the first credible attempt to provide relief. And I can't believe that the board would consider Resolution 55. You're telling teachers and staff that you don't care about their working conditions or providing them with the resources to effectively do their jobs, which is educating our students. If you oppose 1351, you're telling parents that as their children's school district, you think it's okay for their children to continue to learn in overcrowded classrooms that deny students the individual attention they need to be successful, like the 50 students in the music classroom, the teacher that's in overload. And this is a kindergarten classroom. 50 students, 1 teacher teaching music. That's the reality in Kent School District. And you're telling your students, the very ones you have responsibility for, that they deserve a substandard education. And that's just unacceptable. On top of that, you're willing to do this based upon a false characterization of Initiative 1351. We would very much welcome an opportunity to come to the table and provide the board with the facts about 1351.
and we would like to encourage you to vote no on Resolution 1455. Thank you.
Thank you. So following Kathy will be Elizabeth Collins.
I'm Kathy Jones. I'm a teacher here in the Kent School District. Here's what 1351 really does. It reduces average class sizes to 17 for K through 3 and 25 for most classes in grades 4 through 12. High poverty schools, which Kent has plenty of, would see reductions to 15 and 23. The initiative is phased in over 4 years, with high poverty schools first in line for relief. We understand the concerns about space. The initiative provides flexibility to districts in how to implement lower class sizes, so long as the funding provided for class reduction is used to reduce class sizes. The initiative clearly allows a district without the classroom space to add staff who provide direct services to students, such as hiring certificated staff to work as tutors, offering summer school programs, hiring additional paraeducators, reading and math assistants, or other positions that work directly with students to meet their needs. Resolution 1455 indicates that funding initiative 1351 may require reductions elsewhere in school district programs. This is a scare tactic with no basis. It assumes that the legislature will disregard the Supreme Court's Cleary decision and related contempt order to amply fund the full cost of providing a basic education. At this point, I would like to respond to some of the things I've heard tonight about this. And I can't tell you how many nights I've sat in here and gotten so angry at what I hear presented here, and that's all you hear is one side. I've never seen you follow up, come out, talk to the teachers, talk to anybody, find out if what you're hearing here is accurate and true. And so one thing I'd like to point out today is you were told that K through 3 class size would be 24, or would be 23. I have 24, that's not 23, and I understand that's going to happen. In a district this large, you can't add a teacher because there's one extra student. In my situation, my grade level has a split. If we could have gotten funding for one more teacher, it would have brought second grade into line of where it should be, and that one more teacher would have prevented a classroom of first and second graders being put in a year of a much less than desirable situation. That is not a good situation. Other places, they don't do that, and we do. So it would reduce the splits. It's not acceptable how many we have. The second thing is that I noticed that Lake Young's was the top of the list for reducing, or for increasing, for having the number of kids going to meeting standards. We were top there. Second grade, we were also top on moving kids out of level 3. I am a second grade teacher at Lake Young's, so I think our team did okay with that. However, this year I have the same class load. I have 24 again. I have District 1. I have Tier 1, 2, and 3 students. Please let me finish this. I have Level 1, 2, and 3 students. This year the district has placed high cap students in my class with no added support or staffing. I have the same job plus high cap students. The district has promised parents that I will be delivering specific services for their students above and beyond what I have to do for my regular class. I don't know how I can do all that. I don't know how I can do the same job, add the high cap services, and with no more staffing.
I do need to ask you to wrap up just to be considerate of others.
Okay, I will say that how a district spends their money shows their priority. And from our standpoint, it doesn't go to classroom. I can't tell you, they added 2 new reading tests this year, very expensive to implement and buy. Second grade has done 3 reading tests, 2 of them one-on-one, and the computer labs are tied up. When are we supposed to teach? How is that? And so what I'm saying is they're spending money on stuff that could go. I've seen carts of materials. I've seen carts of materials surplus that have never been used because the programs have been dropped before they were used.
Thank you, Kathy. So we've got Elizabeth, and then following Elizabeth will be Cindy Prescott.
My name is Elizabeth Collins. I work in the Kent Uniserve office. I'm honored and privileged to be able to work with the teachers and employees in Kent. I, too, am deeply troubled by the board's consideration of opposing Initiative 1351. I'd like to read for you a partial list, and this is just a partial list of your colleagues who are superintendents and board members who actually have publicly supported 1351. If you supported 1351, you'd be joining Randy Dorn, the state superintendent. You'd be joining superintendents in Vancouver School District, Bellevue School District, Central Valley School District, Stanwood Camano Island School District, Bellingham School District. You'd be joining board members in Federal Way, Walla Walla, Marysville, Spokane, and Peninsula. Superintendents in Wilbur, Mercer Island, Snohomish, Olympia, boards in Mercer Island, superintendents in Coupeville, North Thurston, board members in South Kitsap, superintendents in South Kitsap, the superintendent of Suquamish, and superintendents in Monroe. That's a partial list of superintendents and board members who support 1351, who recognize it as a common sense approach to improving instruction. Your elected responsibility is to be caregivers of this district. That's what your job is. Reducing class size is one of the most common sense ways to do that. I spoke with an English teacher the other day at a high school. She has 36 students in her class. Would you want your high schooler getting ready for college to be competing with 35 other kids for his teacher's attention? It's unconscionable. Opposing Initiative 1351 is opposing lower class sizes and opposing all the other additional support that would be provided by the state to the students through this initiative. Opposing 1351 would be turning away funding that could be allocated based on local needs as determined by the school district and approved by the board. By opposing Initiative 1351, you'd be putting the needs of legislators above the needs of the students. Put your students first, support 1351, and oppose Resolution 1455. Thank you.
Thank you. So following Cindy will be Chase Parsley.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to address the board. I want to say not dollars and cents, but common sense. It sounds like when I read this resolution, this is going to cost a lot of money. Our children are going to benefit. You know, that worries me. And I think it's really important to take into consideration what Kathy shared with you, that it is not that clear cut. There are provisions in there for finding space for kids and finding ways to support kids and lower class size in other ways besides having to build another school right away. So I think there's some misinformation that the board has and maybe a premature action on your part to look at this resolution. So I just want to say there are a lot of people making claims about what is or isn't McCleary. The numbers in Initiative 1351 come straight from the state, and they were used in its defense over the McCleary case. The court is simply holding the state accountable for doing what it said it would do. I-1351 is not concurrent with McCleary. It is an integral part of McCleary. I don't know how, when all is said and done, that anyone can claim we're meeting our constitutional paramount duty if our students are still learning in class sizes that rank 47th out of 50 in the nation. Opposing I-1351 would be denying our students better opportunities to learn by improving the amount of individual attention they receive. Opposing I-1351 would send the wrong signals to students and parents, telling them that the Kent School District favors mediocrity when it comes to their kids' education. Opposing I-1351 would be turning away funding that could be allocated based on local needs as determined by the school district and approved by the board. If you oppose I-1351, you're telling teachers and staff that you don't care about their working conditions or providing them with the resources to effectively do their jobs, which is educating our kids. Number one priority. Resolution 1455 is a bad idea. I'm urging you to vote no on this resolution. And I have a letter for each of you to take with you in case you forget any of these points.
Thank you, Cindy.
Size policy in place. We're 47th in the nation out of 50 states in the largest class sizes. 47 out of 50 in the largest class sizes. That's unacceptable. Kent teachers went on strike over class size 5 years ago. This class size initiative, 1351, is the first credible attempt to provide relief. And I can't believe that the board would consider Resolution 55. You're telling teachers and staff that you don't care about their working conditions or providing them with the resources to effectively do their jobs, which is educating our students. If you oppose 1351, you're telling parents that as their children's school district, you think it's okay for their children to continue to learn in overcrowded classrooms that deny students the individual attention they need to be successful, like the 50 students in the music classroom, the teacher that's in overload. And this is a kindergarten classroom. 50 students, one teacher teaching music. That's the reality in Kent School District. And you're telling your students, the very ones you have responsibility for, that they deserve a substandard education. And that's just unacceptable. On top of that, you're willing to do this based upon a false characterization of Initiative 1351. We would very much welcome an opportunity to come to the table and provide the board with the facts about 1351. And we would like to encourage you to vote no on Resolution 1455. Thank you.
Thank you. So following Kathy will be Elizabeth Collins.
I'm Kathy Jones. I'm a teacher here in the Kent School District. Here's what 1351 really does. It reduces average class sizes to 17 for K through 3 and 25 for most classes in grades 4 through 12. High poverty schools, which Kent has plenty of, would see reductions to 15 and 23. The initiative is phased in over 4 years, with high poverty schools first in line for relief. We understand the concerns about space. The initiative provides flexibility to districts in how to implement lower class sizes, so long as the funding provided for class reduction is used to reduce class sizes. The initiative clearly allows a district without the classroom space to add staff who provide direct services to students, such as hiring certificated staff to work as tutors, offering summer school programs, hiring additional paraeducators, reading and math assistants, or other positions that work directly with students to meet their needs. Resolution 1455 indicates that funding Initiative 1351 may require reductions elsewhere in school district programs. This is a scare tactic with no basis. It assumes that the legislature will disregard the Supreme Court's Cleary decision and related contempt order to amply fund the full cost of providing a basic education. At this point, I would like to respond to some of the things I've heard tonight about this. And I can't tell you how many nights I've sat in here and gotten so angry at what I hear presented here, and that's all you hear is one side. I've never seen you follow up, come out, talk to the teachers, talk to anybody, find out if what you're hearing here is accurate and true. And so one thing I'd like to point out today is you were told that K through 3 class size would be 24, or would be 23. I have 24, that's not 23, and I understand that's going to happen. In a district this large, you can't add a teacher because there's one extra student. In my situation, my grade level has a split. If we could have gotten funding for one more teacher, it would have brought second grade into line of where it should be, and that one more teacher would have prevented a classroom of first and second graders being put in a year of a much less than desirable situation. That is not a good situation. Other places, they don't do that, and we do. So it would reduce the splits. It's not acceptable how many we have. The second thing is that I noticed that Lake Young's was the top of the list for reducing, or for increasing, for having the number of kids going to meeting standards. We were top there. Second grade, we were also top on moving kids out of level 3. I am a second grade teacher at Lake Young's, so I think our team did okay with that. However, this year I have the same class load. I have 24 again. I have District 1. I have Tier 1, 2, and 3 students. Please let me finish this. I have Level 1, 2, and 3 students. This year, the district has placed high-cap students in my class with no added support or staffing. I have the same job plus high-cap students. The district has promised parents that I will be delivering specific services for their students above and beyond what I have to do for my regular class. I don't know how I can do all that. I don't know how I can do the same job, add the high-cap services, and with no more staffing.
I do need to ask you to wrap up just to be considerate of others.
Okay, I will say that how a district spends their money shows their priority. And from our standpoint, it doesn't go to classroom. I can't tell you, they added 2 new reading tests this year, very expensive to implement and buy. Second grade has done 3 reading tests, 2 of them one-on-one, and the computer labs are tied up. When are we supposed to teach? How is that? And so what I'm saying is they're spending money on stuff that could go. I've seen carts of materials. I've seen carts of materials surplus that have never been used because the programs have been dropped before they were used.
Thank you, Kathy. So we've got Elizabeth, and then following Elizabeth will be Cindy Prescott.
My name is Elizabeth Collins. I work in the Kent Uniserv office. I'm honored and privileged to be able to work with the teachers and employees in Kent. I, too, am deeply troubled by the board's consideration of opposing Initiative 1351. I'd like to read for you a partial list, and this is just a partial list of your colleagues who are superintendents and board members who actually have publicly supported 1351. If you supported 1351, you'd be joining Randy Dorn, the state superintendent. You'd be joining superintendents in Vancouver School District, Bellevue School District, Central Valley School District, Stanwood Camano Island School District, Bellingham School District. You'd be joining board members in Federal Way, Walla Walla, Marysville, Spokane, and Peninsula. Superintendents in Wilbur, Mercer Island, Snohomish, Olympia, boards in Mercer Island, superintendents in Coupeville, North Thurston, board members in South Kitsap, superintendents in South Kitsap, the superintendent of Suquamish, and superintendents in Monroe. That's a partial list of superintendents and board members who support 1351, who recognize it as a common sense approach to improving instruction. Your elected responsibility is to be caregivers of this district. That's what your job is. Reducing class size is one of the most common sense ways to do that. I spoke with an English teacher the other day at a high school. She has 36 students in her class. Would you want your high schooler getting ready for college to be competing with 35 other kids for his teacher's attention? It's unconscionable. Opposing Initiative 1351 is opposing lower class sizes and opposing all the other additional support that would be provided by the state to the students through this initiative. Opposing 1351 would be turning away funding that could be allocated based on local needs as determined by the school district and approved by the board. By opposing Initiative 1351, you'd be putting the needs of legislators above the needs of the students. Put your students first, support 1351, and oppose Resolution 1455. Thank you.
Thank you. So following Cindy will be Chase Parsley.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to address the board. I want to say not dollars and cents, but common sense. It sounds like when I read this resolution, this is going to cost a lot of money. Our children are going to benefit. You know, that worries me. And I think it's really important to take into consideration what Kathy shared with you, that it is not that clear cut. There are provisions in there for finding space for kids and finding ways to support kids and lower class size in other ways besides having to build another school right away. So I think there's some misinformation that the board has and maybe a premature action on your part to look at this resolution. So I just want to say there are a lot of people making claims about what is or isn't McCleary. The numbers in Initiative 1351 come straight from the state, and they were used in its defense over the McCleary case. The court is simply holding the state accountable for doing what it said it would do. I-1351 is not concurrent with McCleary. It is an integral part of McCleary. I don't know how, when all is said and done, that anyone can claim we're meeting our constitutional paramount duty if our students are still learning in class sizes that rank 47th out of 50 in the nation. Opposing I-1351 would be denying our students better opportunities to learn by improving the amount of individual attention they receive. Opposing I-1351 would send the wrong signals to students and parents, telling them that the Kent School District favors mediocrity when it comes to their kids' education. Opposing I-1351 would be turning away funding that could be allocated based on local needs as determined by the school district and approved by the board. If you oppose I-1351, you're telling teachers and staff that you don't care about their working conditions or providing them with the resources to effectively do their jobs, which is educating our kids. Number one priority. Resolution 1455 is a bad idea. I'm urging you to vote no on this resolution. And I have a letter for each of you to take with you in case you forget any of these points.
Thank you, Sadie. So following Chase will be Ben, is it Ibil? Abel, thank you.
Okay, thanks for letting me speak, school board. And, you know, I've met each and every one of you guys up there. I know you're great people. I'm a social studies teacher. I'm a national board certified teacher at Kent Lake High School. And the history lesson of the day is William of Ockham he died in 1347. He was a medieval philosopher. He was born in England and died in the Holy Roman Empire. And there's a philosophical point that people use. It's called Occam's razor, which means that if you have two competing hypotheses, the one with the less riffraff is usually the better one. In other words, don't overthink this, guys. It reminds me of this levy debate when we had Rush to say, guys, like, look at the stats. I mean, everyone else has done it. We can do it, and it was no problem. The facts are, and again, let's just see through it here. The facts is that last time I checked, we're the 12th richest state per capita income-wise. McCleary passed, and according to Seattle Times, which has been against most of what I stand for and what KA stands for and WA stands for, has said minimum $3 billion every 2 years will come in for education. And I've heard estimates about $8 billion. And I've also heard estimates that this whole class size, hiring teachers, and all this support stuff, total will be around $1 billion. And again, that's not like a fixed number, guys. But the fact of the matter is we're the 12th richest state. McCleary has passed, and this is a very serious thing. It used to be just a nice argument. Now the court says, hey, you haven't done it. You're against the law. And, you know, how dare these legislators, Democrat or Republican? They're in contempt. I mean, that's just like they're breaking the law for our kids. And you guys, we're 47th. I mean, think of 3 states worse than Washington. I mean, I've lived in 3 states. I live in Arizona, Tennessee, and Ohio, and I'd say Washington's better than those 3. I mean, I don't know if we want a second-rate education. I think we should be saying we want number 1. And this idea, like I heard these presentations, ask any teacher, you don't think class size matters? I mean, I try hard as a teacher. I'm one of the few teachers out there. I'm proud. I memorize every student's name before day 1, so I can greet them. I know all 150, whatever their names. But I tell you, this year, like, and I don't want to embarrass students I have, but I mean, I don't know my students yet. I mean, I have 2 classes. I think one's 35, one's 34. I mean, try grading papers when they're essays. Try getting students to talk in class. I mean, this is crazy, guys. So I invite you guys, just don't overthink this. This shouldn't even be a debate. There's a lot of propaganda out there. We have all this money coming in. Let's just do the right thing, guys. We should be leading the way on this class size initiative, 1351. So I encourage you guys to support 1351. We're all doing it already. Thank you.
So following Ben will be Shirley Hickey.
Hi, so my name is Ben Abali. I'm speaking as a parent. I have a 5-year-old at Ridgewood in kindergarten. I have an 8th grader at Northwood, and I have a 10th grader at Kent Ridge High School. And so I used to be a high school English teacher as well. But I want to say, this is a historical opportunity. Historical opportunity to do what's right for students throughout the entire Washington state. I don't want to just think about Kent. I want us to think about that student that's a freshman in college right now that's going to be one of the 10,000 to 15,000 that will be hired into your districts and across the districts in Washington state. I want you to think about that building that doesn't have the capacity to decrease class size, but they can hire a family engagement specialist, FTE 1.0, so that there's more people of color in here that represent our students, because they have no idea that this is happening right now. I spoke to some PTSA people at Ridgewood, and they were in shock. It's like, I didn't know this was happening. Where can we speak? And Mary is here because I spoke with her as well. And I also have some parents here from Ridgewood that are appalled that we would even consider putting a position out without actually gathering more content and more information from what your public is saying. And I would say, listen to your educators. KEA is here, and they're amazing. I want you to go out into the schools and talk to the educators and say, what could we do if you had 3 more FTE in this building? And I know you can't increase class size because we don't have the capacity in this building, but what could you do with that FTE to decrease dropouts? I want to throw out data for you because right now it's in the Gallup poll. They've been doing research on resiliency for the past 5 years, and they're in their last year. Last year, they surveyed 600,000 students across the nation and asked them specifically, what level of resiliency does this school culture have? And according to their data, 46% of our students have a sense of hopelessness in their education. 54% have a sense of hopefulness. You know why? Because they have increased numbers of caring adults in their lives that have sustainable, meaningful relationships, that have high expectations, provide opportunities for success, right? And they care about this child, and they've had more than 7 weeks of a relationship with this child, and they can identify talents and hobbies across the spectrum, not just education, but family, talents, okay? All those different things that make up the whole child. The reason why I say this to you now is here's an opportunity to reinforce every single one of these high schools and schools with more increased adults who care about kids, period. That will decrease dropouts, that will decrease the achievement gap, opportunity gap, because we need relationships with kids. We don't need bureaucracy. I don't care about who or what money is going to have to be spent for this. I care about this kid and providing another face to match the needs of this child. It's your history today, whether you're going to make this decision or not, but I will remember. And I represent 450 people in my neighborhood. I represent Kent Juniors Volleyball Club. I represent Kent Youth Soccer Association, and I will remember this, whether or not we support our kids on this pivotal moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Following Shirley will be Christy Padilla.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Shirley Hickey, retired Kent School District teacher, 28 years teacher, 25 at Cedar Valley at the end of my career. And I'd like to open with my chicken imitation. Class size is important for each one of our kids, and I wish that we could all of us, parents, school board, and administrators, citizens in our district, all stand up for students and speak against corporate interests and legislative pressures. Supersizing a class is not helping students. Supersizing is for McDonald's fries or buying gargantuan boxes of diapers at Costco for babies. It's not for reaching the children in our classrooms, and we need to stick up and speak up for what is right for kids, even as school board members. We need to have the guts and the stamina to do that. Lower class sizes benefit students. Less kids in class means more time, means more attention to each of them. It means more interventions, it means better assessment, and it means better guidance. So I would like you to join us in cutting out the chicken routine and stand up for smaller class sizes and oppose the resolution. Thank you.
Following Christy, we'll have Alan Sutliff.
Good evening. I don't have a prepared speech as I was not expecting to speak tonight, Usually I come and I support my colleagues and root them on. But tonight I'm coming to you as a parent, and I'd feel remiss if I didn't advocate for my children who are currently attending Kent schools. Mr. Hanscom said something a couple weeks ago that resonated with me. He jokingly mentioned that his son was sitting in a geometry class with students with beards. I'd like to share with you that my son is currently sitting in a pre-calculus class, also with students with beards. School doesn't come easy for him. He has to work really, really hard. He has done everything right. We as parents have supported him. But his class is huge. We did not sign up for UW pre-calculus class. He was put in there. We signed up for pre-calc, and over the summer, like magic, he was in UW Chem, UW pre-calc, and a college level English class. He's a sophomore in college classes, not getting credit for other reasons, college credit, because he's a sophomore. But he has to work really hard, and the classes are difficult, and he can't get help from his teachers because the kids who are above average, those classes tend to be huge because they don't need the help. But I'm telling you, as the curriculum gets more and more difficult, parents are less able to help them at home. And it's frustrating for my son to talk about, next year I'm going to Running Start, because at Green River, I can get help from my teachers. I can't get help now. I teach half-time here in Kent this year. I have 2 classes, 2 science classes. I currently get the maximum overload pay that the contract allows with just 2 classes because they're so overcrowded. I have a science class with 36 kids and 33 kids. I invite any of you to come to Northwood and sit in my science class and watch the kids' hands raise, and I get to as many kids as I can, but I can't get to everyone, and I know they need help too. It's frustrating for parents. We mentioned and we kind of downplayed the 81 classrooms that are in overload. That's hundreds of kids are in overload. Those parents would love small class sizes as well. Please do not go on record for supporting larger class sizes or not supporting smaller class sizes. You might think you have a million reasons why. What's going to go on record is the Kent School Board did not support smaller class sizes. Don't do that to your families. Go talk to them. I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Following Alan will be Cammie Keel.
President Strauss, members of the board, and Dr. Stedry. My name is Alan Sutliff. I'm a parent of a 7th grader at Mill Creek in the Tech Academy and a 9th grader in the KM Tech Academy. And I have to say that as a parent, I think this district is doing incredible things. And even looking at these banners, and I haven't been here for a while, you've added some additional banners. It represents the additional options that you are offering our students in this district that some districts are not doing. That is why we came out and supported a maximum levy so that you could get everything possible from the local dollars. For those extra programs, above and beyond basic education, 1351, unlike what it says in the whereases here, actually embeds the language into basic education, so the state has to fund it. So all of those whereases, some of them are pretty misleading, some of them are downright lies. So even though the bottom line is whether or not you oppose or support or stay neutral on 1351, to make a claim that this is going to take away from your ability to pay for TRI for the teachers as a threat is ridiculous, because it actually pushes more money out for basic ed salaries for all those teachers that you now are using local levy dollars to pay for. The state will have to start funding them. There are so many mistruths in this, the whereas statements, that it would be appalling for you to take this position based on this document. I know you're better than that. We are 47th in the nation, as you keep hearing. This would bring us to average. When we talked about the levy, we were below average in the state for local levy collection. By doing a maximum levy, it brought us up to average. Why wouldn't we want to do that for the state too?
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Kemi Keel. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm a tax-paying citizen of Kent. I've lived here my entire life. I went to Springbrook, Meeker, and Kent Ridge, then off to University of Washington to earn my BA and then my master's degree to become an educator. I am not an educator in the Kent School District, but have, as a citizen of Kent, voted yes on every levy. I voted yes on every bond. I have voted every time there has been a school board member election. I have posted signs in my yard, signed up for phone banking and sign waving. You name it, I've done it. And I don't even have children. But being able to provide an appropriate and powerful education to my city's children is critical to me as a citizen of Kent. I'm absolutely appalled at the short-sightedness of the proposal to oppose Initiative 1351. Helping support and pass this initiative is exactly what Kent School District needs. There are school boards across the state, as you've heard tonight, officially endorsing this campaign. It baffles my mind that this school board, that Kent, the city I am proud of growing up in and I'm proud of living in, could possibly even consider opposing Initiative 1351. Please not only support Initiative 1351, but sign on officially endorsing it. It's the only appropriate thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes our public comment on this resolution. So just for clarification's sake, this did not come from staff. This was from a board member that brought this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call for a motion to approve Resolution 1455 to oppose Initiative 1351.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so at this time, we can have discussion. Russ, did you want to speak to this, or?
Yeah, sure. So I don't want, one, I don't like people telling me what I will say. So let me go on the record on what I will actually say. The question that I first ask all 8 of my children's school teachers is, how big is your class? So I'm out there. I talk to the teachers. I knew what their class sizes were. Some were unacceptable, some were spot on, some were lower. So I'm out there. I have kids in the district. I talk to my teachers. It's the first question, and I can usually see by how they respond, 33, 17, how they feel about it. Really?
Sorry.
You get 1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute
Special
left, right?
privileges, because I'm a volunteer. So that's the first statement. So I'm out there and I talk to teachers and I'm aware of the situation. Second of all, I strongly support our reduction in class size. It'd be interesting to see where my colleagues are, I can guess, but especially with how much we've been dumping on teachers. It's too much. One teacher put it, we're testing a lot. There's new evaluation criteria. I can go through the list. I could spend a half an hour telling you we're aware. We're very acutely aware. We listen. I get 2 sides of the story. So I feel that I'm fairly informed. I believe we could be better informed, and I know that we've talked about hearing from our staff more. So I'm on the record. I support lower class sizes.
Agda dropped. So.
Don't answer.
Nobody answer? Okay.
Are you there, Agda?
Now you're on the big screen, just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makeup is good.
Even though it's 12:30 at night, you look great. Okay,
All
go ahead,
right,
Russ.
so I'm on the record. I support lower class sizes, and I think my record speaks for itself in going after additional tax dollars for public education. What was interesting for me is that when we went through what we should spend the levy dollars on, class sizes never really came up for me. I think there was one or two testimonies about it, but man, I got fifth grade band, librarians, counselors drowned out any public or teacher sentiment about class size. So that's one of my first points. I brought this forward. There's always unintended consequences of any action, and as I was thinking about Agda bringing forward the resolution to support the Kent Police Station, I was feeling that's kind of weird, and then up popped in my email WASDA's position, which is neutral, which is a weird position to have, that it's neutral, and then lots of concerns. At a district meeting, there were over a dozen board members there, all opposed, 1351. To say that because I oppose 1351 says that I oppose class size is a lie, because I'm saying I support lower class sizes. I don't believe that this is the right solution. I don't know if any of you travel down 240th, but we're ripping up trees along the sidewalks and putting sidewalks down, new sidewalks. Someone thought it was a great idea to plant these big trees along the sidewalks, and they looked awesome until they tore up the sidewalks. So I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we spent on the sidewalks and the trees, but now we're redoing it all. For me, one, class sizes are going to reduce. And whether it's from an income tax or we eliminate state programs, I don't know. And to be honest with you, I probably could support this initiative if there was an income tax. If there was a responsible way to pay for what you're asking the public to do, I'm there. We're going to probably have an income tax in the state, or we're going to forgive, or we're going to eliminate corporate taxes. So for me, and Chase, Mr. Chase, sorry, I don't remember your last name, you made a wonderful point. What?
He's Parsley.
Oh, Parsley.
All right, Mr. Parsley, you made a wonderful point, because whatever the number is, there's a number for increased staff. And my best guess now is that maybe the McCleary, this could be 1/3 of the solution. But I don't know if spending 1/3 of the McCleary decision on lower class size is the right thing. Maybe. But then I know that there will be cuts in other programs if there's not enough funding from McCleary to reach this goal. And does that mean higher co-pays for staff, for health insurance? Does it mean we get rid of librarians? Does it mean we get rid of PASA? Does it mean we don't give salary increases as much as we've been? We're burdened with making it work. So I support lower class sizes. I don't support this means. And I really, really struggle with the fact that high schools in Issaquah, Bellevue, Mercer Island, Kitsap County will have the same sizes as us. That really bothers me. I appreciate the fact that lower income schools are phased in first. But from what I've read, and I read the entire initiative. It's not funded. I have a philosophical problem. I will always vote for an unfunded mandate, always and forever. This is, for me, unfunded. The only upside that I can possibly see is that to make it work, we might start utilizing our besides our teachers, is our buildings. And I've hated $180 school days forever. And I think we finally might be maximizing our resources with our buildings and expanding the school year, or some creative method to having a rolling school year so we can meet those class sizes. Current class sizes in many circumstances are unacceptable. In many cases, they're working in this district. I cannot support unfunded mandates. I support lower class sizes. I will continue to work diligently to make that happen. But for me, I feel a public responsibility, and I'm sorry if it's misinterpreted. I like and respect with the deepest admiration our teachers. I'm advocating for you tirelessly. You can't shake your head no at me. You can't, because I am. I work for free. And it's my responsibility to give my opinion and what I feel is not good public policy for education.
Thank you, Russ.
I support opposing 1351.
Thank you. Maya?
So I have to admit that after Russ put out the resolution, I had been leaning towards that. And I'm having a really difficult time as well, knowing that there's additional tax revenue required of $1 billion and not knowing where that's coming from. But tonight I heard that there was a lot of misinterpretation and misinformation that's given out to the public. And so I would welcome a discussion, further discussion on this, and not make a decision tonight. But I have to say that I am also very much against unfunded mandates, and I was going to say no to this tonight. But I would like to hear more from our educators on it. And I do know it's a struggle in all of our schools. I would like to see a study. I've talked to teachers as well. And one of the interesting things I hear is that there's so much inefficiency in the classroom. There may be classrooms with 15 kids, and there may be classrooms with 35 kids. I'm not really understanding how the decisions are made in those situations, so I'd like a further study on that as well. And I don't know if it's just Kent Lake, but I hear that a lot about Kent Lake. So I would like further discussion on that.
Thank you. Karen?
Yeah, I'm opposed to unfunded mandates also, but this is a 33-year teacher talking, and the best year I ever had was when I had 13 kids. The absolute best year I ever had. And it was a fluke, I never had them again. But we did wonderful things. I knew every kid, I knew everything about, I could get to each one of them. They couldn't get away from me. You know, they knew me and I knew them. And so, I mean, I totally would love to have lower class sizes because I know from experience what it's like. There's just nothing like it. And when you're correcting papers and you get to number 13 and you know I'm done, when you've got 13 kids and you get to number 13 when you've got 25 kids and you're halfway finished and you've got another couple hours to go to finish those papers. It's a struggle and it's a lot of work. So I can't imagine having 36 kids. So I sort of agree with you. I would like to just table this if we could and learn more about it and talk more about it. Because I just don't feel ready to vote for it. That's for sure.
Okay. All right. So Agda?
Yes. I'm not in support of the resolution. I would be in support of a neutral position as WASDA took. Like all of you said, I am in support of smaller class sizes. And for pretty much all the reasons that Russ said, I have concerns about the initiative. I don't think it's the right solution, to use Russ's words. However, even before coming tonight, I felt that if our board took a position of not supporting that initiative, that would send a message to the community, although it isn't true, but would send a message that we don't care about class size and we don't want to have smaller class sizes. And that concerns me. And I think us taking a position in opposition on the initiative is really not going to have much of an impact on voters. That would be an important thing to do. So I would take a neutral position on it, and so would need to vote not in support of the resolution.
Okay, thank you. I would also say that I'm absolutely in favor of lowering class sizes. We need to make sure that we have our class sizes at a manageable level for the benefit of our students. I did smile a bit because I know I've got 4 kids that have gone through college, and college classes are by no means, for the most part, small. They're actually larger, which isn't necessarily an argument for larger class sizes, but in getting ready for college, they do have larger class sizes. But I do worry about when we start looking at things of how we're going to fund, and I look at how much we fund already that's outside of the state formula because of things that we've taken in our district to already lower class sizes, and what we've had to implement because of that. I'm kind of, along with I'd like to have some more discussions about different things and get a little bit more detailed information. I do appreciate, Russ, your boldness in bringing this forward. I think it's good for our board to have good, healthy discussions and hear from things. So I do appreciate that. So yes, sir.
So are we still in discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I'm very deliberate in pretty much everything I do, and sometimes I'm deliberate by accident and it works out great, and sometimes I'm over deliberate. But we might have been able to discuss this without KEA's involvement, and I didn't want this to be an easy decision for any of us, and it might have been if they weren't here to testify, because I have respect for the union. I let folks know that there would be turnout. So you can interpret that publicly any way you want, but at least you know where I stand, and I think that it's weird for me to look at other public officials who say all their concerns, and you kind of think they oppose it, but don't say that, because they're not saying that they support it. So you may not like me, but I hope you can respect my position that I have a position, and it's clear. And it's not for a lack of respect or unawareness. Again, we're going to work extraordinarily hard, and class sizes will reduce. I would support an income tax to reduce class sizes. I don't know how many other public officials would go on record to say that. I'd love the governor to say that. I would. I'd love the governor to say, yeah, to get 1351 passed, we're going to need an income tax. But again, for important public decisions and public education policies, we need debate, and I'd love public testimony. It almost swayed me. I have to tell you that. It really did. But then I would feel that that's unfair to my colleagues, that I would bring something and then not back down to it. It hit me very deep to the core. I heard you, but I do not support unfunded mandates.
So, Curtis.
Yeah, go ahead and call for the vote on it. I think would be appropriate. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote on number 503. So all those in favor, please say aye. Oops, sorry,
Excuse me,
Russ.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Oh, God, this seems like such a backpedal. What if we all abstained? Is that possible? I guess, let me just make it public. I don't care what, I'm going to abstain.
But we vote against it, then we could vote.
You would only be voting for it today. I mean, the call for the vote today would just be for it today, would not preempt the discussion from continuing or there being future action by the board at a separate board meeting. It's just for this one resolution.
Does that answer your question, Carrie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So, you okay, Russ?
Well, yeah, I don't want to wait.
Okay, so I'm going to call for the motion, and the motion is...
Do a roll call vote?
If you would like to request a roll call vote, I can do a roll call vote.
Can you?
If the struggle is whether or not you want to withdraw the motion, that's certainly something you can do. There is, in parliamentary procedure, you could do that as well, just in terms of what your options are.
Yeah, so you
Get
could...
the same result.
You could, since you made the
Did I
motion,
make
you
the
can
motion?
withdraw the motion.
Seems a better way out.
Bring it back.
And then you, if you wanted to, you could so bring it back.
That allows the opportunity. And that's what I was looking for. I think my point has been made. And that allows me to reconcile with how I wanted to resolve my vote. So I would like to move to withdraw my motion.
Just withdraw.
You can just withdraw, right?
Just withdraw it. It doesn't
Just
need a
withdraw.
vote. Just withdraw. Because you're the one that made the...
You don't have to move, you just.
Yeah, you made the
stand
motion, so
withdrawing
you can withdraw the motion.
Oh my God, I sound like I'm at home.
4 wives. 3 wives.
What do I do?
Okay, so,
I withdraw the motion.
okay, so Russ is withdrawing the motion, so therefore, we don't need to.
Withdraw her second too, would she not?
Yeah, I withdraw, second.
Okay, so the motion is now off the table.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, it could be brought back at a future discussion if you so desire. Okay, all right, thank you very much, great discussion. So next, we're going to see, wrap this up, 5.04. I am asking for a motion to establish the budget of $202,000 for the Kent Meridian handicap door opener and the Mills Creek Middle Mound Removal Project from the 2006 bond issue contingency.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion?
So the mound has already been removed.
Correct.
So did it happen before we voted on it?
Yes.
Or I see.
It happened before school started.
Oh, well, I know that, but.
We're just asking
I'm
you
just
to-
wondering if I missed something.
You're just asking, after the fact, we're closing the door and the horses are already out, but we need a motion to approve the budget.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or clarification?
Oh, and the handicap door openers have been put in too, or not? In the process? Okay. So could we make sure we approve it before it happens next time?
Yeah, we'll.
Thank you.
Not opposed to it, just.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? It's 1 o'clock in the morning almost for Agda, so I'm like, I'm really sorry. Hopefully your first meeting's not really early tomorrow morning. Okay, so next is 5.05. I'm asking for a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the new policy 6971, school mascots and colors.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions on the policy?
I just wanted to make a comment that, again, as I expressed last time, I was pleased that in the policy and procedure there's a student voice opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And probably because I'm in Washington, D.C., where the mascot is the Redskins, that I'm very pleased to see in the policy that really anyone can bring forward the idea that they think a mascot should be changed and then that needs to be considered. So I'm pleased to see that.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is consent agenda. Is there any items that a board member would like to pull from tonight's consent agenda? Then I will go ahead and ask for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second? Okay.
Are we here still?
Might have feel left out.
No.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And we did catch your aye, Agda. I think Russ is okay at the moment. Okay, so we have completed all our communications from the audience. I don't have any other cards, so we will go to superintendent's report, Dr. Stedry.
It's okay. I have just three quick things. One is the Friday morning is the Kent Food Bank breakfast. It starts at 7 a.m. Breakfast is, if it's what I think it will be, it'll be the Golden Steer, and it's at the
Kent Covenant Church.
Kent Covenant Church. And that's always a worthwhile thing, and I think we got a full table at least going. Good.
1.5.
The other thing is that tomorrow is the Kent Chamber Business Expo and Taste of Kent downtown, and we will have a booth. And the last thing is we have finally received notification that we will receive a refugee school impact grant of about $140,000. We didn't think we'd get that, but it looks like we're in good shape for this year.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Agda, I'm going to start with you because it's really late there. So, board report.
I've been working to set up meetings for us with legislators, and 2 of them are currently scheduled. One is with Representative Sullivan on December 9th at 4 p.m. And the other one, well, we don't have exact date yet, but it's with Senator Fain, and it would be the week of Thanksgiving. And so I guess let Kathy know if you're interested in going, and we'll just have to make sure there aren't more than 2 of us there, or we would need to post it as an open meeting. And the last item I want to mention is to encourage you this Saturday, October 11th, from 1 to 3 at the Kent Library to attend In Pursuit of Educational Equity, which is an opportunity to dialogue with the legislators from the 47th district and candidates about education.
Great, thank you.
Say that again. It's this Saturday?
This Saturday from 1 to 3.
At Kent Library.
Downtown.
Great, thank you, Agda. And I appreciate you hanging in with us so late at night, so thank you very much.
Do you need a ride home, Agda?
Yeah, will you come get me?
Got it. Karen's on her way. Karen.
I'm going to pass.
Dispatch the company plane.
Dispatch, yeah. Maya?
Okay, I'm going to go quick. I have a number of things. Had a meeting with at the Roadmap Project, and wanted to just mention that part of my consideration to vote against 1351 had to do with the really very difficult financial report that was presented there by the state. And I would really like a discussion on how the additional revenue would look to sustain some of the programs that are in jeopardy of being cut, like higher education and corrections. I'd like to kind of talk about that, how we're going to meet McCleary, and if we don't, those are the consequences, and how do we deal with that? I mean, a lot of those questions ran through my mind about 1351, but that's something to follow up down the road. Also had a webinar about improving school breakfast options for our kids. As Director Ogg has reported, only 15% of our kids eat breakfast here in the district. I don't know if anybody realized that or knew that, but that's a very difficult thing to understand. How does that happen? So there are several options that are going on through United Way, Children's Alliance, that I passed on that information to Director Ogg and see how we can have at least a work session on making it easier and simpler for our kids to have breakfast after the bell. And then also had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Vargas, Dr. Stedry, and Mr. Nguyen in looking at the reporting of our warrants, our vouchers, and how things can be improved for our public to have more transparency with our accounting and our expenses, that is. And I just want to thank Dr. Stedry and Mr. Nguyen and Dr. Vargas for pulling that meeting together, because I've been talking quite a bit about how we've been approving these vouchers, but it's of no use to me personally. I don't really understand why I'm approving this. So they have created, a template whereby we have a good understanding, if not a program-based budgeting, at least we have a good understanding of what are the expenses that are taking place within a program. And it's much more detailed by accounting code now. So I think you'll see that at some point. And I just want to thank Dr. Stedry for working on that, and his team, of course, Mr. Fortunato and team. Thank you so much. It was very, very helpful to see that. And Chief Nguyen, thank you for the safety report revision, and I know that has to be discussed, or does it? I don't know. Okay, so we're done with that. So I guess we'll see that down the road. And then we had a King County Youth Planning meeting in which none of Kent showed up, and so no one knew about it. It's a huge effort that's going on within King County, and so there's a youth survey going out. I'd encourage you to go to kingcounty.gov/YAP, Youth Access Program. Is that right? I don't know, something like that. Okay. Youth Access Plan. And then finally, had a meeting with Pastor Braxton at New Beginnings Christian Fellowship. I don't know if you have been there on 193rd and Benson. They have a huge community center that's open to the public. They're trying to work out some partnerships with the school district to serve kids after school, provide after-school programming. And I just found out today that they've been providing scholarships to our Kent Meridian kids this past year, and nobody knew about this, or at least I haven't heard about it. And our our district wasn't represented at their banquet last year. So I just want to invite everybody through Pastor Braxton to go November 8th. To their fundraiser. Last year they had Christine Gregoire and a lot of big names there, and this year it'll be William Bell from the Casey Family Programs with Jesse Jones from King 5 moderating, and they will be presenting, I think, about $9,000 worth of scholarships to our kids. I don't know which school this year, but anyway, I'll send more information out later on that.
Great, thank you, Maya. Thank you. Russ?
So probably three things. One, I went to my first homecoming dance. I mean, I went to private school. We had banquets, not dances. We didn't have competitive football. So I went partly just to kind of see what is a homecoming like. And so it was at KM, and it was a real honor because my son was selected for the homecoming court, and which just speaks well to, I think, the investment that our family has made in this district. I mean, he's first grade. He knows all the kids. He's a product of, he's a stable face among the school district and all the friends. And it was nice. He was the only white face in the homecoming court. And he looks like a vampire, so he really sticks out. He's very pale. So I enjoyed it. The principals looked pretty beat and very tired. It was a long day. It was a Friday night. Or Saturday night. They looked exhausted, and it just, again, appreciate the staff and all the extra hours that they put in, and looked like it was very successful. I attended the WASDA district meeting. It was very well attended. It was nice drive out in Enumclaw. If you take a back way, we live really to some pretty amazing country. That's just 10 miles away, and I've never driven the back way to Enumclaw from Kent before. It was really beautiful. That's besides the point. It was good to network, saw a lot of familiar faces. As I mentioned, you know, and this is what bothered me, is that everybody's willing to speak behind teachers' backs against the initiative, but no one's willing to go on record, and that just really bothered me. So I just had to go on record, unlike, you know, the 20 to 30 folks that spoke against it at the district meeting. So it was a lively debate, but nobody spoke in favor of it. It was weird. You could see a couple people were for it, but they just didn't feel compelled to talk about it in the hot topic. So there's a lot of, I sent you all the update on what we discussed and things. So, and then lastly, I participated in the Wellness Committee last evening. It's a good group. They're storming and forming right now about the charge, and there'll be a policy probably in 2 to 4 weeks. Excuse me.
Speaking of wellness.
About this, yeah.
Yeah, I actually feel way better than I sound. So we'll start to see policies out of that, and then their scope, and I've encouraged the group, and hopefully maybe you can join next time, Maya, is to be as innovative and as cutting edge as possible. So we will be looking at carbonated beverages, caffeine, sugar content, physical activity, all of that. So it's a pretty comprehensive group. So and we're meeting again in 2 weeks.
Great. All right, thank you. So I just have a couple of things. So I was also on the meeting that Maya had with Dr. Studry and Mr. Wynn, and so thank you for the efforts on that. That was a very productive meeting, and I think we'll see some good things on that.
Yeah.
And you're looking at me funny.
What are you saying? What did you just say? The meeting.
Yeah, the meeting where we went over the vouchers, and that was one of the action items from one of our board meetings that I meet with my.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm looking forward to going to the College Bound Scholarship meeting this weekend on Saturday morning at Green River Community College. It's always a great event, and our district does a fantastic job of making those families more aware of the opportunities that they have, as well as giving them some really good guidance on different things that they can do. So I'm looking forward to being at that on Saturday. Just a reminder, I'm not sure if we have any board members that have not completed the Open Meetings Public Act training. It is a requirement and you need to get it done. I wasn't going to call out any names, but please take time you can log online and do it. It doesn't take a super long time. And then just one final statement. So I know everybody's aware that Dr. Vargas has put in his resignation, and so the board is beginning the process of looking at next steps. So we are looking, as I stated in my email that we sent out from the board, that we will be looking for an interim as we conduct a nationwide search. But one of the things that when I've talked to Dr. Vargas and when he talked to the board is really we've got a great district, and one person doesn't make the district. Dr. Vargas is an incredible, inspirational, visionary leader, and he will be greatly missed. And I have confidence that the board will be able to find another person that has that same leadership qualities. But each one of you that is here makes such a difference in the lives of our students. And I want you to know that, and that we believe in you, and that we believe that the district's going to continue moving forward as we work through this process. So I did want to say thank you. And with that, we are adjourned for the night. Thank you very much.